Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another dosage of Thursday Night Thrills, courtesy of the iRacing Creator Series Season 3. And last week, we kicked off the third chapter with an absolute bang, multi-class chaos, a catalogue of carnage, and a final lap fuel frenzy to boot as well. Road America delivered drama across all three classes. And tonight, we stay stateside as we head to one of motorsport's all-time great venues. I think you can all agree to that point there. The legendary Laguna Seca playing host to round 2 of the season. And this could be wild, everybody. From the Andretti hairpin to the rainy curve to the infamous corkscrew, has there ever been a circuit better suited to create a series multi-class mayhem? I think not. And even if that was not enough to get the blood pumping, well, there might be just a little dash, a little drizzle of rain that we need to keep our eyes on. So we're going to be in for a barnstorm. I'm absolutely certain of it. In the virtual commentary box for tonight's action, myself, Tom Wilson, I'm delighted to say, not in a field in Monaco this week. It is John Harris. How are you doing, my friend?
Well, lovely. The internet's a little bit more reliable, let me tell you that. But it's definitely a week to be excited for in the Creator Series. I mean, this might be chaos. Indeed, you have blind crests, you have different racing lines, you have approaching speeds where sometimes you can't even see the car that you're trying to overtake when going into the corner. I mean, it's going to be mayhem, but we love a bit of mayhem, don't we? Because effectively, the creators are all trying to survive, and if one thing's for certain, not all of them will do this week.
This could be closer to a demolition derby, I think. Like you said, so many blind crests, the corkscrew in particular. I'm so intrigued to see what happens when we see the inevitable moment where the Indy cars catch the GR86 cars through the corkscrew. That is going to be hugely exciting. Last week we were in Road America. We focused on the past. We focused on the present. Let's look at the future as well, though. The calendar for this season. Road America was so exciting. Laguna Seca promises to be equally as spiffing, I think is the best way to put it. And then we go all around the world, realistically, starting still in the United States with the Indy Road Course. Then we head over to Fuji Raceway before the special event with a cross-kart carnage before we go back to Japan with Okayama Circuit, Daytona Road, followed by Sebring, Talladega Oval, Miami Autodrome before the Long Beach Endurance Special Event. And then we finish where we started in the iRacing Creator Series with Monza Historic with those chicanes included. John, I mean, it's a bevy of incredible circuits, isn't it?
I mean, who can forget the crash that we had at Monza Historic? That was quite possibly one of the most frightening crashes I've seen, and also the most hilarious moments at the same time. There's definitely a lot of variety in there, and I think a lot of people will be aiming for one or two circuits where they want to really push for the win, try and stay consistent in the others. But, you know, you've got everything to suit at least a majority of people, with some ovals in there, some really complicated road courses, and some courses where you could say they're a little bit of both. That cross-kart carnage, though, is going to be something special as well mid-season.
100%. I think you mentioned it there. With the big spread of different circuit types we've got, it is going to pose challenges for everybody. We're going to see people come through with strengths and weaknesses throughout the season. I think we are going to see quite a lot of fluctuation in results. We're not far away from getting underway, but we do need to have a bit of a chin wag with a few drivers before we get cracking. And first of all, we're going to have a chat with Encephalosis, who is leading the team's championship, let's not forget, after a very solid result for himself, and his teammate Reska Kyoso picked up the win in the IndyCar scene. Encephalosis, I mean, I don't know how to summarise what's going to happen tonight. If we thought Road America was exciting and carnage filled, well, Laguna Seca, this could be last week times 10 times 100 maybe.
Oh yeah, this should be absolutely wild. It's not exactly a tiny track, but it's not exactly a huge track either. And with 3 different car classes, it's going to be absolutely wild.
Have you had any sort of experience yet of trying to overtake cars or being involved with a situation where you're approaching the apex with either a slower or faster car? How has that played out?
Yeah, I really grateful for the practice sessions beforehand. We've gotten a few opportunities, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised. It's not as bad, at least not when it's 1 or 2 cars. There's just enough room and just enough of a speed gap between the classes that you can make the move if you're patient and you do it at the right time. But I think a lot of that will kind of go out the window once you've got 4, 5, 6, 8 GR86s in a pack, 2, 3, 4 GT3s in a pack, and then wouldn't you know it, here comes 3 Indy cars. I think there's going to be a lot of mixy moments today. So I've had a little practice, but nothing can prepare me for this race.
Yeah, survival of the fittest, I think the best way to put it. From a car perspective, obviously, if people missed last week, you are in the Mercedes in the GT3 class. What do you think the strengths and weaknesses of that car are going to be around this circuit?
Well, I'm a bit of a noob, but I know at least very surface level, we've got the front engine car, so we've got a little bit better entries. But then, of course, with that, we've got a little bit of a loose rear end, not as much weight back there holding us down. So I've just got to mind my exits, especially around corners like, corkscrew. There's a lot of elevation on Laguna Seca, so we'll just have to keep that rear in check and be ready to kind of chuck it into the corners. And yeah, we've got a little bit of practice, so I'm feeling okay in the Merc. I'm feeling okay. I think I chose it because it's a nice, well-rounded car. So.
Have you had any talks with your teammate, perhaps, about strategy for this race? Of course, you're leading the championship, so are you going to play it more cautious? Are you going to try and play team tactics at some point?
No specific tactics. I think win is obviously the tactic. That's going to be the strategy we're employing here. I know Ruska was joking. We're excited for a very long season. I think we'll be going all the way till April. But then once you see that first scorecard come out, and I did a double, maybe even a triple take with my jaw on the ground when I saw us in P1. And he was joking, you almost wish that the season was a little shorter. We won't have to defend for as long. So, I got my screenshot. I'll put that on my my refrigerator so my mom can see it. But yeah, we'll try to hold it down for as long as we can. Obviously, the main goal is to have fun.
And from this circuit in particular, we spoke a little bit about the car, but the track in particular, like you said, it can be very difficult in place. You've got the corkscrew, which is the big one, where especially if you're meeting GR86s, that could be quite the challenge. What are you expecting from the circuit itself and how that dynamic might unfold, especially if there may be a little bit of rain thrown in the early stages?
Oh, yeah. Not going to lie, I did not practice rain. I know it's a light amount of rain that we're talking about, so hopefully that's manageable if that does happen. But yeah, the track, again, it's not the tightest track in the world, but it's not huge, and especially places around the like the corkscrew, even the run up to the corkscrew. I think something that comes up a lot in multi-class that can get really sketchy is even just little S curves. Just little bits of going left then right then left, because when you're 2 wide or even 3 wide, some of those corners become almost impossible. Someone has to kind of back out just for the sake of, hey, there's not enough track coming up, or we're going to have to somehow tandem perfectly go through these S's together. So yeah, Laguna has a few of those, primarily leading up to the corkscrew. So yeah, I did get a few little side-by-sides in practice, but again, throw in IndyCar in the mix, throw in some GR86s, and you really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, could be the definition of chaos. We wish you the best of luck. Luck, I think, is going to be important for every single driver out there. Thank you for chatting to us, and
thank you.
Have a great race, Ancephalosis.
Hey, thank you very much. Pleasure talking to you guys.
Likewise, buddy. Likewise. Well, from one interview, we are going to jump straight into the next one with Super Noodle Bagel, who is going to join us in the comms box. Super Noodle Bagel, welcome in. Last week, it's fair to say, didn't quite go to plan for yourself. How excited are you to get back out there and try and right the wrongs of 7 days ago?
Yeah, excited for it to... I had PC issues, basically, last week, and I'm kind of just hoping that I won't have any this week,
I guess the main way you can do that is by starting, at the front, pulling away and having nobody in front of you to cause any issues, right? Is that the part of the plan?
Yeah, exactly that. I like the reverse grid, but it's a lot of pressure being basically the slowest and then right at the front. Yeah, it's stressful to say the least. But I'm excited.
Love to hear it. What are you expecting from the multi-class racing, catching those GR86s in particular in quite a lot of blind crests? How much are you going to have to keep your wits about you tonight?
Yeah, I think I've kind of, on this little practice session, I've noticed the GR86s, you can kind of just get by them at any point. It's more, I've tried a couple of times getting past the GT3s, and it's not, there's only going to be certain bits that you can do that kind of safely, but there's going to be so many crashes tonight. I can already tell.
Is that more to do with the acceleration of the cars, or is it more to do with the cornering speeds? Because we saw last week that there was a bit of both. So do you think this track suits one more than the other in terms of complexity?
I think, yeah, I don't know. I think it's basically, especially in this car, I think if you've got a lot of control in the car, then you're able to kind of go off the line and get around cars. But for me, I struggle at the best of times. So if there's any car near me or around me, I'm going to be struggling. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect. Just try and avoid murdering anyone is my main aim.
Just one final question. This is a circuit where it doesn't matter how much confidence you have, it can bite you very, very quickly and very suddenly. How are you feeling going into it? How are the practice laps being? How comfortable are you at this stage going into the race?
I did a bit of practice yesterday, so I feel okay. I definitely know certain places where I need to be careful. But in general, I tend to spin a lot anyway. So I think, yeah, you're definitely, if you're on board with me, you're gonna see some drama for sure.
Well, what do you know? We are on board with you. This car spun out in front of you there, so for the moment you're staying away from all of the drama. But how chaotic do you expect it to be with maybe the unsafety car also coming onto track at some point?
Yeah, see, I missed that last week because the PC like sort of died, or my CPU or something. It was just struggling with the amount of cars. I sort of avoided all of the safety car stuff, so I don't really know. I guess it's hard for them all to catch back up and get in the right order. But yeah, I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of the unsafety car tonight, that's for sure.
I think we can definitely guarantee that one, especially if there's maybe a little bit of rain thrown in there. Thank you very much for talking to us, Super Noodle Bagel. We wish you the best of luck. I think luck's going to be very important for a lot of drives tonight, considering what we're seeing.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, one more interview to go, one that I'm sure John is going to very much enjoy after last week. Ryan83 joins us in the box. How stressful is this going to be, Ryan? If we thought that Road America last week was carnage filled, well, we've got some very interesting parts of the circuit here where catching cars at exactly the wrong moment could give us quite the fireworks.
First off, hello to you both and everyone watching. Yeah, it's going to be a fun one tonight. It is going to be absolute carnage. Laguna is a very narrow track for overtaking, especially with GR86s. It's going to be an absolute scene for everybody, but I'm sure the viewers are going to absolutely love this round tonight. It's going to be absolute carnage, and I'm looking forward to it.
Maybe talk us through the IndyCar around this track. It's quite, bumpy car to drive, and the suspension isn't the same as the GT3. So is there sort of a technical way you can get around the track or find speed around such a complex layout?
If I'm going to be honest, John, no. You need to avoid like that corner just there. If you hit that curb, you're done for in terms of your wing and stuff like that, as I prove another corner. These brakes as well on the fix-up are very sensitive, so you've got to be very careful on braking, especially in that downhill bit and corkscrew. But if I'm going to be honest, it's not about technical skill tonight, it's about survival is the aim of the game, and whoever survives will benefit at the end of the race.
If we look at where you're starting in the class, I think you're P9 out of the 11 Indy cars that are going, or maybe a little bit further forward. How much is it going to be a game of patience in the early stage? You know, you just need to try and keep your nose clean, keep it out of trouble, because when you catch those GR86s, you don't want to be in a position where you might leave yourself a little bit caught short.
Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting, as I mentioned, I think I just tapped the GR86 there. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I have a strategy in mind that I'm going to probably do at the start, because the quickness of how we'll get a gain to the GR86s quite quickly is going to be very interesting. So traffic's going to be a factor, and there's going to be safety cars anyway, so clean air is probably going to be the strategy, I think, for a lot of people, because you can lose a load of time. It's like here, for example, I've just couldn't go anywhere, lost 2 seconds in the space of half a corner, so yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Strategies is going to happen this evening.
Well, it definitely seems like you've got your work cut out for you. Sadly, we don't have more time to ask you a lot of questions. I have so many that I would want to ask you, but nothing about that front wing. But in any case, we wish you all the best, and hopefully everybody gets through turn one. Maybe not if you do that, though, Ryan.
Oh, of course.
Cheers, Ryan. Best of luck. I think a lot of drivers are going to need it in that one. So, practice is coming to a close. 32 seconds remaining. John, final expectations before we get ready to kickstart the action. Carnage is the easy answer to go to, but what else can we expect from this circuit and the multi-class racing here?
Took the words right out of my mouth there. I was about to use the word carnage because what we've seen in practice is quite hilarious already. I think that the main difficulty really is anticipating what the other drivers are going to do. There's always an element of doubt, and sometimes if a driver shows that they're willing to give up the inside, all of a sudden they realize they're taking too much speed into the corner and they turn in anyway, and suddenly if you're in an Indy car, you're sort of left for dry on the inside. You hit the curb and that's the end of your front wing. So it's going to be really, really difficult. I think just leaving a gap, leaving an element of doubt there just to ensure that everybody survives is going to be the key to this, as many drivers have already described to us. But at the end of the day, with everybody pushing the limits, that's easier said than done, isn't it?
100%. Welcome in, everybody. If you've just joined us, we are moments away from getting started tonight. It's going to be an absolute crackerjack. Before we get down to business, let's have a look at how the grid is shaping up here for round 2 at Laguna Seca. IndyCar's first, of course, is Super Noodle Bagel going from pole as he did last week. We'll be hoping to reach the checkered flag this time. We'll love 46 for company on the front row. Brendan Hyperstar and Hayden Gullis, well, they finished side by side a week ago, and they will resume that battle royale, I'm sure, down into turn number 1 with Aerotech going from P5, hoping to stay out of trouble, and Ryan Lady 3 hoping to get his fuel strategy right this week. If you know, you know. Punju starting 7th in class ahead of the winner from the IndyCar class, Reska Kyrgios. A bit of work to do in the opening salvos. Dector and Lithium Fox appear for the first time this season, commandeering row 5 with Josh Marin debuting in the Creator Series, hoping to watch the carnage unfold from the back of that IndyCar pack. Then into the GT3s, and Josh was starting from the front in the Acura with Chesnoid Gaming just behind, alongside Storm Molina, licensed to thrill in the 007 Aston Martin. Should be an exciting one. Stroop Waffle and Josh's corner going next. Mustang versus Ferrari. Legendary battle. I'm sure you will agree with Ancephalosis. And it's Des going from 17th and 18th on the overall grid. Grand Poobah has the reigning champion for company. Sparks was pretty quiet last week, has to be said, hoping that he can get a foothold in the battle for the two men that had his beating last week. Suelio Almeida won, and Aidan Pold, who was quite comfortably the quickest of the GT3 class, but just needs to make sure that he can get it over the line. And then, of course, we're going to the GR86s. Christoph and Tic Tac, the leaders of them on the grid. Just behind them, we have Elbird 51 and Gosh Dame. Behind them is Vipe and One Rosemere sitting perilously in the midfield, with Young Quest and Flyers just behind them. Clark missed out on victory last week by 0.8 of a second, and that only got him P3 over the line. He has Diamgal for company on the 5th row of them, with Nate Stewart returning and looking to maintain his ownership of the GR86 crown, with, of course, we can't forget the unsafety car in there as well. John, the drivers, the fast drivers at the back of the classes, once again reverse grid. This is going to be an absolute crackerjacker, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the anticipation will already be rising, and everybody will just be sat there thinking, I've got to make this work into the Andretti hairpin. What a racetrack to have such a difficult layout for that hairpin. You're just braking down into turn 1, downhill. You can always lock a brake. And the problem is, as you said, if you're starting toward the back of your class, you want to get the overtakes done, because realistically, you'll have just a tiny bit more pace, and it can go oh so wrong. So I would expect to see a little bit of pinball into turn 1, even if they don't want to, but it's going to happen with so many cars on the grid. You just got to see what you can do as we go into the final hairpin to get racing.
Do you want to leave that gap, of course, because we're expecting carnage here as we round the final corner, and we will wait for Super Noodle Bagel at the front of the IndyCar pack to bolt and put his foot down. And we are racing here for round 2 of Creator Series iRacing in Season 3. Who's going to get the braking point right down into turn number 2? Darting to the inside goes Brendan Hyperstar, looking to make up for lost time. Hayden Gullis hasn't had a particularly good launch, has lost a couple of places in there. Fairly spread out, actually, fanning out the IndyCar-wise as we wait for the GT3s to pile down into turn 1 as well.
Yeah, Super Noodle Bagel just sort of went straight away at the start, and that meant that there was nothing much that could be done effectively for all of the other drivers. They just had to plant the throttle. Chesnoid Gaming's got a good start as well. Looks like GT3s have got away relatively unscathed, so everybody just trying to get that initial lap underway. Suelia Almeida looked like they were trying to make a move, and it looks like they have done, actually. Have made up one position, at least Aidan Pohl following them through as well in the background. So that is good stuff from them already, as the IndyCar's already through the corkscrew. That is legendary. And you can just see how much they're rotating and looking to spin out, and the drivers are going to have to correct that every single lap for the next 55 minutes.
Speaking of spin out, I think Gullis might have had a bit of a whoopsie now. 2.5 seconds detached at the back. Locked in combat with Josh Merrin. You can see debating the wooden spoon in the IndyCar class. Still Super Noodle Bagel leading, but look who's come through. Brendan Hyperstar is off into the final corner. That is the said battle that we were talking about, and going off is Dector, struggling to keep that car on the circuit. Contact between himself and Love 46 as Josh Merrin already entering pit road. As there is Josh was leading the GT3 class in the Acura, Chesnut Gaming in the McLaren, holding on to second place. As we were the top three, Vancephalos's making up a couple of spots ahead of the Ferrari of Josh's corner. Aidan Pohl, last week's winner for the GT3, is currently holding sixth. Remember, last week was so quick, so efficient, working his way through the traffic, got up into the lead from the back of the pack in 4 or 5 laps, and then stayed there for 90% of the remainder of the race.
Yeah, looks like quite a lot of the GT3s are in the pit lane. Maybe some damage for Suelio and it's Des TV at least. Grand Poubert is the last racer there that is still carrying on for the moment. So I think quite a bit of contact has been made on this first lap off camera. Meanwhile, at the front of the pack, Reska Kyoso is really attacking now, and Aerotech is defending that P3. But the big news is that Brendan Hyperstar, as you previously mentioned, and Ryan L83 have got the moves done and are already into P1 and P2. We're seeing the story already starting to emerge here that they might be contending for the win amongst themselves. We'll have to wait and see. Unsafety car can always change that. But, you know, Ryan was saying before the season started that he needed to keep Brendan Hyperstar in check, especially on the road courses. So it's now or never, basically, for Ryan. And these two will be flat out from start to finish, I'm sure. Look at the amount of oversteer and sort of snappiness of the car on board here with Reska Kyoso.
Oh, looks very lively indeed. I think we have, once again, as we did last week, have we lost the pole sitter? Soup Noodle Bagel says out there on our timing charts, I think he may have bade adieu after just a couple of laps already. Spoke about how he had some technical difficulties. I think it's best to say, well, not going particularly well for himself. Chesnut Gaming now leading the GT3 class. Josh Mers has dropped back to third place and 4 seconds off the back of the leading duo, who are tussling very hard out front. But here come the Indy cars starting to make their way through. Brendan Hyperstar leading the way ahead of Ryan L83. Aerotech, like you mentioned, under the microscope from last week's class winner Reska Kyoso. Punju and Lithium Fox still very much in that lead scrap as well.
Yeah, Grand Poubert there into turn 1. Looked to have the inside, but I think Chesnoy just hung it round the outside, which is a brilliant move, to be fair, Andretti Hairpin. That's really difficult to do, to manage the braking, and you can see the speed differential of the Indy cars. That is truly terrifying, and everybody is leaving the inside at the top of the hill, just so that nobody gets collected. Meanwhile, at the front, we've got Tic Tac in P1 of the GR86 class that is now getting swarmed by Indy cars that are having to brake. Gosh Damn is in P2 with Clark P3, so Clark having a really good start here. Christoph behind, and Nate Stewart picking up that P5 for the moment, so they've made their way through all of the cars that might be struggling a little bit for pace at the start of this race. We see often there's a concertina of pace where it smooths or sort of widens.
Oh, off the road. Very bumpy through the gravel there, the corkscrew. Do not want to get that wrong. Knock all the fillings out of your teeth. And a bit of a bumpy ride for Gullis as he does get back going. Doesn't lose any places. He's actually a little bit further back, down in 10th in class after a bit of a messy opening lap. And off in front of him, that's Joshima's in the Acura car, spinning reverse entry drift into the penultimate corner.
That all happened all at once, didn't it? Hayden Gullis just misjudging the braking. Sueli Almeida going for an overtake as well in the background. That is very pacey from him right now. But yeah, Hayden will be lucky to get away with no damage. He could have lost the front wing there. So let's see what happens to Joshua. It's probably a wheel on the... Oh no, he's lost it on the curb. Wow, that's a really disappointing result there. Just looks to lock the rear brakes, I think, in the just maybe a difference in brake balance. And around it goes. And because you've got gravel on the outside, nothing you can do about that.
Had a couple of stabs at trying to get the car turned in, but yeah, once the back end stepped out, that was all she wrote as Gullis dives down the inside, this time of Storm Molina in the 007 Aston Martin. Brendan Hyperstar still leading the way. Hold that thought, because that was Ryan at 83 thinking about it. Down the inside into turn number 5. Got to be careful through 6 as well. We heard Ryan say you do not want to touch that curb on the inside, the big mountain of sausage curb, otherwise it will spit you violently into the gravel and or barriers that are surrounding this circuit.
You've got to remember as well that at the bottom of the corkscrew here, there's going to be so much gravel pulled out by cars straight lining and missing their braking point, that you've got to sort of guard yourself from going full throttle and spinning up the tyres. There's very little room for manoeuvre if you go off track there, and you'll be eating a barrier if you really don't take care. So Grand Poubert right now in the lead of the GT3s. Let's see if we can get a replay here of what has happened. So Chesnoid defending. Oh, Chesnoid has gone wide off the track, picking up a load of gravel, and that means that Grand Poubert can just floor the throttle. And in the background, Hayden Gullis was off as well again in the last turn. Not going well for Hayden, is it?
Yeah, having a few adventures out there. I wonder if that car is a little bit damaged, but you can see here, Ches not willing to give this one up. This is the battle for first and second in the GT3 class with last week's winner, Aidan Pole, just cruising up to the back of this little duo. They're 7 seconds clear of the 007 of Storm Molina in 4th place, with Suelio Almeida a little bit boxed in the pack, hasn't made the progress that Pole has had. And look at this, Ches with a brilliant run as the IndyCar of Hayden goes through. Are we going to dive it down the inside of 6? You'll be a brave man to pull that off contact as the rear left goes spinning around. I think Grand Poubert may have ended up in the gravel, didn't quite catch it. Yes, Pole goes through. You can just see the beamer there in the background. Bit of contact there as Ches with a bit of a bump and run to get himself the lead in class.
Aidan Pole will be counting his lucky stars there. That's a free overtake as Ryan goes all the way around the outside, but on the gravel he nearly lost it then. That was really tricky. And as Reska Kyoto tries to do the overtakes as well, we're already seeing the problem here of having to take a wider line or a different racing line as the faster cars. And it can get you into all sorts of trouble, and none of it really of your own doing. You just don't have the grip off of the racing line. Adds to that, we'll be having marbles that accumulate on the non-racing line parts of the track, and it can be really, really difficult. And that is, I think, Super Noodle Bagel back out on track. Lovely to see, at least for the time being. He's got a lot of time to catch up, however.
100%. As through goes another IndyCar flying past the GR86s. That is Super Doodle Bagel, of course, as he gets past Clark, who is now leading the way for the GR86s. Came third a week ago in a big, epic drag race up the hill in the final corner of Road America. Ended up 8/10 off the ultimate winner, but that only netted in P3 in the end. Gosh damn in P2, ahead of last week's winner, Nate Stewart, who's quietly gone about his business, worked himself up into 3rd place in class, and now really applying the blowtorch to the back of Gosh damn.
Tic Tac's lost 3 positions since we last saw the GR86s, but they're all still line astern for at least P1 to P5, as Stewart looks like he's got the run here, going to the inside. Yep, gosh damn, won't be able to defend. He'll have to do it all the way around the outside over the curb. GR86 is a lot better over those curbs, so that you can take an aggressive line. However, that's left Clark get away with at least 5 car lengths, so they need to battle intelligently, as they say, as Nate Stewart up into P2 there.
Oh, look
and
at this.
still,
Contact spooked over. It was Hayden, I think, down the inside, and that is 2 of them. It was like we're going bowling there through turn number 1. Usually flat as you like, but just caught out by the IndyCar. The closing speed is now Brendan Hyperstar. Laps Hayden, who loses part of his front wing as well, all kicking off for the number 6 IndyCar. Has had a few trials and tribulations so far. The GR86s, most of them getting away unscathed. Can't be said for the 2 that were caught up in that big incident. Not sure who it was, but definitely going to be ruining their chances.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out who it was, but I think they just made a little bit of contact, but they're still driving. However, Ryan L83 called it before we started the race. It's going to be so difficult to keep out of harm's way, especially if you're approaching with such high speed. We thought that the blind crest, Reska Kyoto goes over the gravel a little bit there, and Hayden Gullis still in tow as well, as here we've got Suelio Almeida trying to make an overtake on Storm Molina. However, it's difficult to get the run unless you're on a really long straight here, so you've just got to be patient and wait for the driver in front to make a mistake, as I'm sure Suelio will be thinking about all of the different possible overtakes. You've got to just put pressure and hope that you can get something done. Storm Molina braking very, very late, wide on the apex. This will give the run to Suelio. Can he go around the outside, which will become the inside? Yes, what a brilliant move. Just spotting that Storm Molina broken too late, and then Storm Molina is going to be washed wide onto the curb. That is job done, masterclass right there, and he'll be hoping that he can just pull up to Grand Poubert and make the same sort of overtake. Grand Poubert still fighting with this is Aidan Pole, fighting with Chesnoid Gaming. So for the lead, Aidan Pole to the inside. Will he have enough braking? Chesnoid defends, but Aidan Pole clean on the brakes. That is supreme braking in the Corvette, and that is P1 for the moment for Aidan Pole.
2 superb moves there as Pole, as we saw last week, very quickly into as well. Now going to dice, thread the needle between the 2 GR86s. Just found the space, backed out of one of those moves. Doesn't want to play with fire, considering he's just taken the class lead. Now darting his way through the moving chicanes on the run. down into turn number 5. So exciting, isn't it? Pole now leading the way once again, as he did last week, from the back on the grid in less than 10 minutes as he flies down the inside of another one into turn number 6. Chesnoid Gaming in the McLaren, relegated down to second place. Then it's Pooh Bear, then it's Almeida, and that was a brilliant move, wasn't it? Straight out of the textbook, saw the gap present itself on the left-hand side, blundered straight through it as we see Pole now. Bit of a lock-up there into the corkscrew, very easily done, of course, but has really good control out of that, and we have to say last week he was head and shoulders above everybody else in the GT3 class from a pace perspective, and he's already put nearly 2 seconds on the head top of Ches this lap.
I was about to say, it's almost happening again, isn't it? But interesting what he did in there. He noticed that he was going a little bit too late on the brakes in the corkscrew. And rather than risking having oversteer and then spinning out, because you will do over the crest, he just added a little bit more steering lock, which sort of gave the car like an artificial understeer. So you're locking the brakes, you are going a little bit wide over the curb, but you're stabilizing the car, and that means that you can just carry the speed, hop over the curb a little bit, take a little bit of gravel onto the track, but no harm done. So brilliant driving there from Aidan Pole, just recovering from a little mistake. However, in the Indy cars, I'm not sure you have the time to react to do that. So, Resca Kyoso over the gravel, as I say. And Resca Kyoso is actually doing a really good job to hang on to Brendan Hyperstar here. Ryan, I think, has either had an incident or has been into the pits, because he was in P2 and now P8. So what has gone on here for Ryan?
We didn't see it, but I think there was a big moment for L83, which has chucked him out of contention for the moment. Back in the pits comes Ryan L83, so maybe some more dramas out there for the driver that was potentially the favourite heading into this, joint favourite with Brendan Hyperstar. I believe we're going to have a look at it here. Oh, he's missing his front left wheel. Well, he's not missing it. He's dragging alongside the car and now locking the rears into turn 1. Bit of a bump and run. I think that's Love 46 getting involved. And then a tap from the vet of Aidan Pole as he tries to work his way through. Ryan there, a comedy of errors, I think is the best way to put it.
Now, I'm not calling Ryan out or anything, but he did tell me in his own live stream that having that looks like some sort of technical issue on his end, because the wheels just went straight left into the barrier, like instantaneous. So that is not ideal, and to be close to the pit wall as well, that is adding insult to injury. So Ryan with a lot of work to do, but it looks like the car is at least repaired and he's back out there. So yeah, unfortunate, but definitely not a driver error, I'd say. Swelio nearly going into the back of Grand Pooh Bear there. So you can see the difference in confidence having an effect right now. And as the faster driver, or the more confident driver, I must say, you've got to be aware of that maybe not everybody's going to brake at your braking marker.
There's a further second up the road, but we said it time and time again. Aidan Pole absolutely checking out. 6.5 seconds now, the gap between himself and Chesnoid Gaming, that Corvette. He questioned last week whether it would work quite as well around the twisty turns of Laguna Seca compared to Road America. Well, he's certainly putting it to good use again here. Ches down the inside of the GR86 into turn 6. Just got to be careful as Grand Pooh Bear slides slightly wide. Is that the opportunity for Almeida? Where he's going to get boxed in, has to take to the dust and to the gravel. Going to have to give up for the moment on that assault of third place. We almost tapped the back of the Beamer down into the corkscrew. That's where you've got to be so confident, really get exit out of the corkscrew. Picks the pocket of Grand Pooh Bear, and that is absolutely superb. But Pooh Bear going to fight it back on the exit on the run into the penultimate corner. Almeida has the inside line, has the high road, and has third place firmly now in his grasp.
Trying to be prime Mika Hakkinen there with that overtake, but it didn't really work out on the gravel. I'm not quite surprised, really. It's quite slippy once you get on at least 1 or 2 wheels onto there. You've got no turning ability whatsoever. So I think the GR86 are a little bit annoyed at some of the drivers. They're flashing their headlights, indicating that there might be a little bit of a questioning of how people are trying to do the overtakes. That is Joshima's into the back once again. So a little bit of damage coming on here, and Stroopwafel round the outside. That was Ryan L83. Supreme confidence. So obviously whatever that issue was, it was an intermittent issue, and it's not affecting his pace whatsoever. He wouldn't have the confidence to do that, but yet Stroopwafel defending still at the moment from Joshima's, and these two have been a little bit in the wars so far this race. A few mistakes happening left, right and centre, but they're still out on track. They're still putting the laps in, keeping themselves in contention. I think that Joshima's can gain confidence here and get himself back up the standings, that's for sure.
Well, remember, Joshima's started from pole position in the GT3 classes. Look, just stuck there underneath the rear wing of one of the GR86s is Stroopwafel, giving the opportunity for Joshima's to close back. And once again with a big wobble. I wonder if there was a bit of a tap there at the rear. And yes, the GR86 comes back through. So Joshima's having to cool that assault for the time being. We've already seen him off the road once. Remember that spin into the penultimate corner. A bit of a lazy spin. He had a couple of stabs at trying to get the car rotated, and that aqua was recalcitrant, I think is the best way to put it, at trying to go.
Oh, it still is.
Backwards into the gravel. Say it again, because there we go, backing into the wall. Big hit there. The rear wing stays on the car, and I think he might be able to get going again without needing a tow, or maybe not, as he tries to find first gear to get out of the mess that he's found himself in.
Yeah, that looked like a lot of damage to the bumper at least. Kept the rear wing, so maybe it'll keep driving, but definitely not ideal. Yeah, he's in the pits, sadly. That is a tow. Probably broke a drive shaft or something, sadly. So that is very unfortunate. It was going oh so well, but you could see into the Andretti hairpin already. Oh, big contact here, and that is, I think, is that Aerotech taken out? Yes, it is. Aerotech has made contact, and I think Chesnoid was caught up in that as well. You can see him dropping down the order. Aerotech's going to have to pit. Hopefully he can get it back without towing, but again, a similar situation where there was some contact that happened, and they were already heading toward the barrier. Aerotech had nowhere to go, so let's see if we can have a look. So that's Suelio Almeida and Grand Pubert ahead. That's Chesnoid loses it. And Grand Pubert tries to go left, tries to go right, and then collects. Yeah, Chesnoid was just trying to get out of the way. Grand Pubert hesitated, and that's, yeah, difficult racing incident there, I think.
Yeah, big crunch. Unfortunate there for Aerotech. The number 3 car was temporarily there in position number 3 before that big crunch there, as he tried to find the space that was slammed straight in his face. The door that he tried to barge through. Down into 5 we go. Battle for the GR86 lead in class, I believe this is. And look at this. We've got, I think that is Strootwaffle pulling through in the Mustang as well. They're going to remain side by side up the hill into turn 6, and down the inside we go. That is the lead in class, taken by Clark from Nate Stewart. They were knocking 10 bells out of each other 7 days ago, continuing this battle royale with 2.5 seconds now, the gap between themselves and gosh damn in position number 3. Big gap back to Christoph in 4th to nearly 10 seconds. That is the gap between the 303 and the 306.
I think actually it's making it a little bit easier for everybody in terms of overtakes, although we've had quite a few contact, haven't we? But the field of GR86 is a bit more spread out than last week, and so that means that in terms of overtake, you're not having to overtake 10 cars at a time, although we have 5 of them on screen at the moment, as we see Super Noodle Bagel about to demonstrate how to overtake the cars. All in the background, I think that was goddamn nearly going for a little bit of a spin and overtake, as well as I think Nate Stewart is getting challenged here. But
this
yeah,
is further back. This is Diamgo battling away with
yes,
Tic Tac. Yes, so this is Christoph in 4th, who's managed to escape from this drama because there was a bit of a bump and run into the final corner of the hairpin, as Vike just about managed to, well, with an armful of opposite lock, keep the car pointing in the right direction. Through goes Aidan Pole on 1, 2, 3 of them. Maybe is he going to find the space on the inside? We'll have to try and divert course there as well. Hand it on a plate as Christoph runs slightly wide. I think that's Brendan Hypestar and the IndyCar ducking all over the place just behind to find the space through. Punju, yes, in fact.
What a supreme confidence overtake by Punju. That was really, I'm turning and I am taking that gap. It's up for you to avoid me. It's worth pointing out that in multi-class rules, it's for the faster cars to make a safe overtake, as that is damage on, hang on, is that Josh Merrin? I think it might be a little bit of damage on the front wing there, so that's not Aerotech. Ideal. Is it? Oh yes, it is Aerotech. No, it was Josh Merrin. I was getting corrected there, but there you go. The liveries are quite similar with the purple. Everybody loves a purple livery, and I can see why. It does look supreme on an IndyCar, but from the commentary box, sometimes it's a little bit confusing. But everybody's going to pick up damage at some point. But just to finish on my point here, the slower cars are entitled to their line. As the faster car, you have to make sure you get a safe overtake done. So that's why there's maybe a misunderstanding at some points that drivers are just going for a gap that is always going to close on the apex.
So we've got a debate going on in chat about which is the best looking GT3 car. Hold that thought, because the battle continues to rage on between Clark and Stewart. Look at the closing speed, blasting round the outside into turn number 1. Hayden Gullis is going to find himself bolted in here and boxed in behind the leaders in class for the GR86s, and lose touch to the group in front as the vet of Aidan Pole is outside, it's inside into turn number 3, gets past one of them, although turning in slightly aggressively there is Nate Stewart. Look at the power out, what an exit, as he can now absolutely soldier past Clark to get ahead of the lead GR86s.
Yeah, I'd say the main difficulty, if you've ever raced multi-class, you do not understand the closing speed on the brakes until you've experienced it, because in an IndyCar you can brake well, you can approach the corner faster, you have the downforce, you can brake later, and you can brake more intensely as well in terms of trail braking, as Ancephalosis nearly goes for a spin. Sparks was nearly saying that position is mine for the top 5, but not quite. As you can see, he did anticipate, did Ancephalosis, that the car might be a little bit unstable, but maybe not to this amount. Let's look at the amount of brakes he's having to put on, and Sparks could have a move here. The slipstream will be in effect, but here comes, I think that is Brendan Hyperstar. Won't go for the overtake, but Sparks will. Up the inside, Aerotech just getting on the dirty line a little bit, and that is a clean overtake from Sparks right there. That's how to do it. Just pressure your opponent into a mistake.
Exit stage left there for Ancephalosis as the reigning champion flew on through, and only 8 seconds now off the back of Chesno again, and that was comfortably over 10 at one point after Sparks had a few trials and tribulations on the opening lap. We're nearly at a third distance, and in the IndyCar classes, Brendan Hyperstar still leading the way to the tune of just under 3 seconds. Big gap then back to Punju in third, and Lithium Fox, who has very quietly gone about their business and very efficiently as well to get up into P4 from 10th on the grid for the Indy cars. Josh Merrin with that little bit of damage ahead of Dector. Hayden Gullis has very much been in the wars. He's 18 seconds off the back of Aerotech. Ryan Levy through Love 46 and Super Noodle Bagel, who has had some significant technical difficulties. Aidan Pohl, the gap out in front between himself and now Suelio Almeida, who's made their way up into second place, is 10 seconds. Pohl just catching cars at the wrong time, but doing a really good job of threading the needle and getting that Corvette through without any damage. Storm Molina, 007 Aston Martin in third place. Chesnut Gaining dropping back after running in second for the majority of the opening third and the opening stanza of this race before a bit of a wobble and a bit of contact with a couple of GT3s and a couple of Indy cars as well. Just dropped him further back, and now he's got the reigning champion of Sparks. Very much
Brendan Hyperstar. Brendan Hyperstar, sorry to interrupt. I've seen that he's dropped to P2 and he is possibly stationary because he has lost a lot of time, just lost 5 seconds to Reska Kyoso, who has now taken the lead. I do apologise for interrupting there, Tom, but that is a move for the race lead. Let's see what happened here. What has gone on with Brendan Hyperstar? So just overtaking some cars clearly in the lead right now onto the curb, and not really seeing anything that could happen at the moment. But I'm definitely saying it's definitely going to be possibly some sort of contact, or could it be into the pits but it hasn't registered? I'm not quite sure, but I think something has gone on.
I think he's well, we're hearing that it might be an internet issue as Reska Kyoso making their way down pit road for the first time. Brendan Hyperstar, we think, is back and also into the pits. But yeah, that's a disappointing one because he was so far in front, wasn't he? He looked really, really comfortable, was just eking that gap out over 3 seconds. And yeah, has fallen foul of either a little bit of a connection issue or a mistake on his part. All of the top 4 into the pits for the first time this evening. Dector also hasn't been down pit road yet in P5, though that might not be coming too far in the future. Aerotech, Hayden Gullis, Ryan Lady 3, all of them have had various trials and tribulations. Josh Merrin has just recently been through the pits as well to get on the Red Stripe alternate tyres. We'll see how he can make them work. He was looking pretty speedy at one stage as well before just chipping off part of his front wing and losing that little bit of front downforce that you really need around this circuit.
Yeah, it's so crucial, especially with some of the corners that are either a little bit off camber or over a crest. You need all of that downforce to maintain turning ability. It goes without saying. So a lot of, in fact, all of the Indy cars coming into the pits, I think they've just run their fuel tanks dry, and it's quite a difficult pit entry, isn't it? If you lock up, you're going straight into the tyre bundle there, but also you can get a speeding penalty also. So it's good to see that Brendan Hyperstar is still in the race, 11 seconds down though, so he has a lot of time to catch up. And I was about to say before that, the Reska Kyoso was actually closing the gap even before that, so we were set for a battle. We'll have to wait and see. So again, everybody in a little bit of argy-bargy for the moment, as here we go. I think this is with Clark and Nate Stewart once again. Can Stewart go up the inside? No, because there's a Chesnoid Gaming on the inside, and that suits Clark because he can defend once again. But these two are clearly a step ahead in terms of pace, as Gosh Damn and Tic Tac have been dropped now from this lead battle to the tune of 11 seconds. That is a turn of performance that I did not expect, but these two will be hoping that they can keep this battle right until the end, and they hope that nobody will collect them. It is possible after all, but if it carries on like this, we will have another grandstand finish, and I'm all for it.
I'm all for it as well. Diamgal was running fairly nicely, but into the pits for the first time with a black and orange meatball flag. It's just going to drop Diamgal further down as here come the Indy cars once again. You can see Sparks there in the Audi as well, the GT3 Audi, trying to work their way through. I think that's Reska Kyoso flying on through. Hayden Gullis in there as well. There goes the reigning champion of Spark.
That's Brendan Hyperstar.
Very closely by Love 46, I believe that was. Brendan Hyperstar not quite in the picture. Ryan 83, by the way, is missing half his front wing. You can just see in the back of shot.
Yeah, indeed, you are correct. That was Love 46. Yeah, liveries again, as you can see, quite similar. But yeah, I was exclaiming because I thought he'd already caught. So he's catching by a couple of tenths, about the tune of about 8/10 of a second, according to my calculations this lap. So Brendan Hyperstar on the move, as they say. But for Ryan, it goes from bad to worse, doesn't he? Sat P8 at the moment, and that broken front wing once again. I think. Whether it's been contact or whether it's just losing it on a curb like he suggested could happen, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's not Ryan's race today. And I must admit, this is probably one of the tracks that suits him the most. So he'll be more disappointed, I think, as we're on board with Punju here. Let's see.
Watching
corkscrew.
Runner-up from last week, ran out of fuel over the line. Yes, looping it round, just cutting the second part a little bit too much. There's not a lot of grip on the inside there, especially when the gravel's been brought back onto the circuit. That is 10 plus seconds lost there for Punji, who was running nicely in third position in class, but just losing a couple of places there. As this is it's Des going around the outside of a GR86 into turn number 1. Bit of a quiet time for Des, although losing the back end there through 2 and looping that Aston Martin half round. And a little bit of a whoopsie there, the best way to summarise it.
So close to Formula Drift. It was 9 out of 10, just the last moment where he kind of just ran out of grip onto the marbles. And here we go with a battle. Let's see, this is, I think I'm correct in saying that this might be Josh Merrin. But yes, it is indeed Josh Merrin that we are on board with. Very few cues on livery. I could have seen it. It's just above the steering wheel, actually. But you can see how much you have to attack the circuit in the IndyCar to get any speed out of it. And this kind of aggressive driving, you're leaving yourself very little margin for error. A little bump or just a little snap of oversteer or indeed understeer at some point, and you can just go flying off the track. So add to that cars that you have to overtake, and you really have to have your wits about you. Sometimes it can just get a little bit too much pressure, and that's when you make a tiny mistake. And I think what happened for Punju, by the way, is he got one wheel, or the rear wheels, over the dirt, and it just spun him out because of the differential. Just didn't want to apply the power correctly, and then it was a very swift spin. Sueli Almeida there just in P2 trying to track down Aidan Pohl, but at the moment Aidan Pohl is increasing the gap. I mean, we've seen Porsche versus the Corvette around here. It didn't end well last time, so I'm hoping that if they do come to close blows, that it just ends up in a huge battle.
Yeah, Aerotech not too far behind. For people interested in the difference between the Indy cars and the GT3 cars, Ressa Kyoso just started lap 24. Aidan Pohl currently on lap 21. As through goes Punju. I think that is blasting past a couple of cars. Sparks in there. GR86 going very wild as Punju almost has to just jump out of the way. He collected. Ches losing the back end of his car. Maybe a little bit of contact there between himself and Lithium Fox. Punju says thank you very much. Although big armful of opposite lock, almost perpendicular to the circuit, coming out of the final corner. And he's going to be under the cosh on the run down into turn number 2. Is the defensive shape going to be thrown? Alternate tyres versus the primary tyres for the blue 47 around the outside. Lithium Fox has to go. Punju keeping it pinned tightly to the inside. Good defensive driving there from the 13. Last week's runner-up in the Indy class, let's not forget. Keeping that third place in his grasp. The Lithium Fox, I think, definitely had a bit of a coming together there with Chesno getting in the final couple of corners. Poor run there for Punju. Sorry, just to come back to this one because that's going to leave him under pressure. Diving back down the inside we go. The Lithium Fox will take back that third place. Or will they? Because Punju keeps it pinned around the outside. Not going to back down without a fight. And that is third place once again within his grasp. Both of them off the road. The Lithium Fox, to some greater degree, just about keeps it pointing in the right direction. What a save that was. That could have been a car upside down, potentially slamming into the arm cone, the tyre barriers on the right-hand side.
Okay, maybe there are a few mistakes there, but what supreme car control from both of our drivers right there, because they had every opportunity to make contact in that really dangerous move, but they kept it out of the barrier, they kept it out of any contact, and it was brilliant racing. Lithium Fox making a little bit of a mistake, but what can you do? Sparks here trying to overtake Chesnoid into the pits with that damage. Some debris was on track as well, so I'm glad that everybody got away with that unscathed. Well, Chesnoid didn't, but yeah, nobody else involved as far as I could see in that contact. Sparks is having kind of a questionable race here. I mean, the pace is there, but there's obviously a couple of mistakes creeping in, and So that must be frustrating from their point of view, because they could be battling with Stormalina, for example. They are closing the gap slowly but surely. There's a lot of time left in the race as Hayden Gullis there, very slow, out of the Andretti hairpin. Not, or as that is the reason. Safety car deployed.
Well, 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 we thought it was going to come much earlier this, but for the first time, the unsafety car will be deployed as Reska Kyoso, the IndyCar class leader, dives into pit road, as we are going to see the unsafety car make its first appearance of the night just before we reach half distance. And you can see there, the man piloting it is, of course, Scotty Designs, by the way, but almost might just get caught out here by Ches coming out of the pits after he's had his rear bumper repaired, no doubt. Brendan Hyperstar also in. This is an opportunity for a lot of drivers to pick up a free pit stop. Remember last week, though, we had a late unsafety car deployed. A lot of drivers were caught short by that. They were short fueled and had to make a splash and dash in and around the last 4 or 5 laps of the race, and that was what allowed Reska Kyoso, allowed Punju to come through, finish first and second, caught out Gullis, caught out Hyperstar, caught out Ryan and 83. They've got to make sure they keep that in the back of their minds.
I think this is the right timing for quite a few drivers in the IndyCar field. At least they've gone at least 6 laps on the fuel, so they would have had to start thinking about another pit stop in the next 5 or 6 laps, I'd say. So probably good that they do not have to, as Reska Kyoso nearly having an incident there, as I think one of the GR86s didn't realise that's the leader. They're not meant to overtake the safety car, and so that could have been a disastrous one right there, as we've got a lot of cars getting the laps back, including Joshua's that you see going past there. So this is a time for reset. There's been a lot that's happened for our drivers. There's been a lot that's happening on your screens as well as spectators. So it can be a time to just refocus, settle down, because there's been a lot of chaos, and for our drivers at least, time to come up with a different strategy. Your race has either gone better than expected or worse, and you've got to figure out a plan now of what you want to do, how you can change your approach to get a better finish position at the end of the day.
If you're interested in the stint length, Reska Kyoso we saw jump into pit road just as the unsafety car was called. Punju and Lithium Fox both stayed out, as we see them going across the dirt there through the corkscrew. 6-lap stint they've done so far. Brendan Hyperstar pitted. Josh Merritt did not. 7 laps on that stint. Aerotech 11 laps done, so just bear that in mind. Ryan Lady 3 brand new. Hayden Gullis with 3, Dector with 1, and Love 46 16 laps into a stint. I'll be very surprised if we don't see the 46 car jump into pit road between now and the end of the unsafety car. Aidan Pohl in the GT3 class. Different week, same old story for the 12 car. The vet running very, very nicely indeed. Looked so comfortable. Once he worked his way through the pack, which, let's be honest, did not take very long, got himself into the leading class and did not look back. Sueli Almeida eventually working their way up into second place, with Stormalina in the 007 Aston Martin third in class, as Aerotech jumping into pit road along with Lithium Fox. So those are the drivers that had a decent whack on their tyres and on their fuel that they've been on. So it is just Punju and Josh Merrin who have stayed out at the moment, that haven't elected to box under this unsafety car.
Yeah, very interesting idea to not go into the pits for at least Punju, because he's on lap 7 of his stint. So that's going to leave him compromised. I guess Punju is arguing that safety cars lead, or unsafety cars lead to more unsafety cars. So it's possible that that can happen. We've said it so many times on so many different broadcasts, and it remains true that when you concertina up everybody together, it just breeds overtakes that are just not on, as we've got a car into the gravel there. Well, I'm not exactly sure who that was. I didn't catch a glimpse. I think it was a Lamborghini.
I am not 100% sure who it was either. It was very difficult just to flash there. Aerotech coming out of pit road in position number 6, crucially ahead of Ryan at 83. Ahead of Hayden Gullis as well. Yes, Des TV, who had a little bit of a whoopsie. Not for the first time. We saw a few laps ago going through turn 2, just losing the back of that Lamborghini, and a bit of a half spin costing 5 to 10 seconds there. As we wait for everybody to queue up, we are at half distance, everybody. Hopefully you've enjoyed the carnage that we've seen ensue in the first 27 laps or so. Get your predictions in. Who's going to win the IndyCar class? Who's going to win the GT3 class as well? Very much up in the air. Aidan Pohl has had the pace advantage in the GT3 class in that beautiful Corvette. For the Indy class, a little bit more all over the place. Last week's winner, Reska Kyoso, currently leading the way and has done for the last 5 or 6 laps. But we've still got Brendan Hyperstar now brought back into play. The same with Ryan Lady 3 and Hayden Gullis, and they could very much work their way through in the second half of this race.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of incidents or indeed drama that is going to happen. We're going to see a lot of overtakes right now until the end of the race. Effectively, sort of resetting the race at half distance is going to be quite good for a lot of our drivers, as I think they've just been, I wouldn't say overstimulated, but they've had a lot to deal with, as I said previously. And so as you rejoin the back of the pack here, you'll be thinking to yourself, finally, I have a chance to fight back. And for people like Hayden Gullis, who we have on our screen right now, it will be an opportunity to demonstrate the pace that we know that they have. But they've been involved in incidents as they're trying to get back into the pit lane, as it seems for another pit stop. I thought they'd already been in the pits. No. Stint, lap 5 of this stint. So Hayden deciding to go for a very late pit stop. He'll have to speed up to join the back of the pack once again. So as you see, all of the classes are getting sorted out for the moment. Aidan Pole just hanging back a little bit, but in theory, all of the car classes should line up with the GR86s at the back, the GT3s in the middle, and all of the Indy cars at the front, so that we can go green flag racing again, possibly next lap. As you can see, everybody is now sort of in their correct positions.
Next lap might be wishful thinking. We'll have to wait and see. People
Always
are
optimistic.
close there as the Mercedes Van Cephalosis decides to take a little skirmish through the gravel to let the Mustang through. And now I think we're going to be re-overtaken as Hayden Gullis emerges once again at the back of the IndyCar group. Pitted just a couple of laps before the unsafety car was called, to be fair. So wasn't massively disadvantaged, but does, as has all of the 7 drivers in front, strapped on the red striped alternate tyres. So keep an eye on that one, with the 2 behind of Dector and Love 46 on the primary grey striped one. Love 46 still hasn't boxed under this unsafety car. 19 lap stint so far, so an interesting one there. Super Noodle Bagel is still in the running as well, albeit 4 laps down after some more technical difficulties. Has pitted under this unsafety car, I believe, and is running the red striped alternate tyres as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one on the tyre strategy. I expected everyone to be taking the softer compound tyres, the red wool tyres. And so, yeah, a lot of people may be going for the harder compound just with the amount they're having to push in terms of overtakes. Maybe they're overheating the tyres and they think that they can get a little better performance. But it's really difficult to know, really. The driver will know the balance, they'll be comfortable with the tyres, and it does look like the softer compound is working a little bit better. And especially with all the gravel on track, you want as much grip as possible, even if they are slightly overheating toward the end of the stint, because at the end of the day, if you have less grip, you're more likely to make a mistake as well. Lithium Fox has had a good race so far. I think they've just been involved in a bit too many tussles of overtakes, let's say. But it's definitely a demonstration of their pace and performance that we saw already last season, to be fair. So it's going to be an interesting one, whether they can get themselves back up into podium positions. Reska Kyoso P1, as I think you said previously, Tom. So it's working out for a race 1 winner, isn't it?
100%. Has looked really calm and composed. If you remember back to last week, there were times, especially early on, that Kyoso did look a little bit wild and a little bit ragged, especially in some slightly dicey battles with Hayden Gullis in the early stages. But the fact that those two haven't been together on Seca has allowed Kyoso to just go about their business and inherited the lead after the maladies that befell Brendan Hyperstart about 10 or so laps ago. Here's Josh Miz, did start in the Acura from pole position in the GT3 class. Hayden Gullis is up into 3rd, up into 2nd, up into 1st into the pit lane for another time. So trying to get the most advantage he can out of this unsafety car. Boxing again for a new set of tyres, you would maybe say, and a little bit more fuel. Maybe it is touch and go whether he can get to the end of the race. If he's trying to overtake everybody, this is a strategy that is an interesting one. Very fitting of Hayden Gullis is the way I would put it. And I think he is going to overtake everyone. And from the back to the front, it's the Uno reverse card that he's played. Hayden Gullis is now your leader of the IndyCar class, everybody.
There is somebody in production in the background that is frantically looking through the rule book at this point. I can guarantee you that. That is
he's going to get a lap on everyone as well. Oh, he's dropped it. No, Hayden. If we thought the overtaking in the pits was classic Hayden, that's classic vintage Hayden Gullis as well. Chipped off a bit of that rear wing. I think he may have damaged his left rear and front left suspect. You can see the car crabbing massively there, and I think Reska Kyo's are going to see this and almost pass out with laughter as you can see there. Hayden Gullis 86, and the team name underneath is Bottle Job.
All I can say is that's not gone well. It's one thing to do a move like that. I can respect it. technically, I don't think there's anything that prevents that in the rule book, but to then lose it and crash into the barrier, not ideal, that's for sure. But hey, free entertainment. I had my popcorn waiting out for that one. That's an unexpected strategy. Of all the things I expected to happen, an overtake while going into the pit lane is not one that I had on my checklist. But there you go, Creator Series, everyone. It brings out the best in the drivers, and indeed in terms of unorthodox strategies, let's call them.
I almost have more respect for somebody that tries to cheat and then makes a mess of that cheating and ends up worse off than when they started. It's almost like well, you can make your mind up of what it's like. But he is going to drop back. I don't think it's going to be 11th place. Super Noodle Bagel a little bit too far gone at this stage. Still about 25 seconds behind the 86 of Gullis, who should emerge in 10th place. We don't know. Might just decide to overtake everybody once again under the unsafety car.
Yeah, I was just thinking also, there's a quote from Fernando Alonso, as always. There's always a quote from Fernando Alonso in this context, and I think the quote is karma. That's exactly what he would be saying.
Where's Jolyon Palmer when you need him?
Well, he's not in the barrier, I can tell you that much. But yeah, indeed, I think all of the IndyCar drivers might be thinking, I might be able to try that one myself, so this might become interesting. But also, for people like Punju, he's got to worry about the offset in terms of strategy as well. So there's a lot of drivers here that will be on lighter fuel. The Super Noodle Bagel just trying to get back to the end of the IndyCar pack. This is really good for Super Noodle Bagel because he's been out of the race running, let's say. He's been trying to get, as far as I could see, about a lap and a half back, and so now he's able to get that. As I think we're about to get green flag racing once again. Reska Kyoso backing the field up.
100%. So Hayden Gullis still in the pit lane at the moment, is not going to be able to jump onto the back of the snake, and Reska Kyoso will lead the IndyCars away. Aidan Poll will lead the GT3s away. As we wait now, Hayden Gullis is apparently in the lead of this race. Just hold that one, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. Round the final corner we come when we smash the right foot to the floor. There we go with last week's IndyCar winner, Reska Kyoso, powering down the straight, and will try and hold off any attacks and any advances from Punju on the run down into the first braking zone. Great restart, though, for the 13. Punju fancies hanging around the outside. There's Hayden Gullis again up into the lead of the race. What a move from the 86 car, and what a move from the 13 of Punju, who's dispossessed Reska Kyoso of what is now second place, with Brendan Hyperstar nipping at the heels of the leading duo as well. Josh Merrin, Lithium Fox following in suit behind, with Aidan Poll still comfortably leading the GT3 class head Almeida. Storm Leader and Chesnut again. Here we go down the inside. Reska Kyoso's had their pocket pinched again. It's Brendan Hyperstar down the inside. Got to be careful of Merrin. Sticking a nose in a place is not very welcome as well. Careful to be side by side. Jumps over the curb, going to get a terrible run up the hill into the corkscrew. Opportunity for Kyoso to try and regain some confidence, but from first down to fifth, technically fourth, because Hayden Gullis has cheesed it up into the lead. Not a particularly good restart.
Hayden, he can't keep getting away with this, but he's about to get overtaken by Punju, who takes the race lead. Brendan Hyperstar will probably follow, as I think maybe Hayden having a little bit of problems warming up the tyres, that's for sure. But Punju straight off as well, and Hayden has to take avoiding action. Brendan Hyperstar goes all the way into the lead. Josh Merrin now fighting for that first place. Is going to be very late braking down into turn one. Brendan Hyperstar defending aggressively the inside. Punju nearly made it all the way around the outside. Josh Merrin had nowhere to go, and Hayden Gullis really struggling to get the tyres warmed up. Reska Kyoso to the inside. I think Hayden may be atoning for his previous trials, let's say, by letting everybody pass. Reska Kyoso is through now. Ryan L83 will try and get the jump as well. But what a restart. Everybody getting off to a pretty clean start, I must say. It's good to see, and we will have to wait and see who has the pace now when the tyres get fully up to temperature.
Gullis dropping behind Ryan L83. Josh Merrin could very much be the dark horse there. If you remember, if you're watching the first 30 laps, he was just secretly setting fastest lap after fastest lap, and can now try and apply the blowtorch to Hyperstar as best as possible. Punju's still right in the thick of this battle as well, with Kyoso a further 9/10 of a second back. A wall of understeer through the third last corner. You can see Josh Merrin cranking on the steering lock, trying to get the front end of his 53 IndyCar to bite as best as it possibly can and keep tabs on Hyperstar in front, whilst maintaining the gap to a very feisty looking Punju behind.
I'm also getting reports that the unsafety car cleared the barrier at the corkscrew while attempting to get to the pits faster, which would be impressive if that did happen. But yeah, there's a lot of battles on track going on. Brendan Hyperstar trying to get past the first GR86 that you can see there. The field of GR86 is spread out once again, so I think maybe a little bit of argy-bargy at the start. Love 46 in the pit lane, that's probably some contact. As far as I can see, although it still says that they're out on track.
We go with Merrin. Got to be careful of the GR86s. There was a chance there for Josh Merrin, who was brave under braking, but Hyperstar had the advantage of not getting bolted in behind. Punju closes up to the back of the 53 car as well. Merrin clearly laying his cards down on the table. He just laid them at the wrong part of the table. Now Punju surely not to the outside of the corkscrew. That would be unwise. I think the best way to put it, you can see the rear end of the car's really slippery. Just about keeps it pointing in the right direction. Punju. Not a great run from Hyperstar. Not troubling the apex there, and that allows Merrin to get right back on the tail of the 10 car with Reska Kyoso finally with some temperature in their tyres back underneath the rear wing. A gaggle of cars into the final corner. GR86 on the inside. Reska Kyoso trying to pick up the pieces as Punju was caught behind them. Still flashing through they go. Super Noodle Bagel a lap down into the back of the GR86. Big calamity. Hyperstar off, Merrin off, Kyoso caught up in it as well.
That has wiped out the front of all of the Indy cars, sadly, and that might mean that people like Aerotech can get into P3, and that is an unsafety car called once again. As you can see, Brendan Hyperstar crabbing there straight away. So let's see, on board with Josh Merrin right now, you'll see Brendan Hyperstar go for a gap, and it just closes. Oh, he tries to go to the inside, and then Josh Merrin gets collected. Brendan Hyperstar gets damage off of the wall, and I think just loses steering ability. That's so unfortunate, and it's just a case of trying to go for a gap, because you have to. If you brake, you lose too much speed, but in this instance, it's cost them way more than it would have if they just backed out of it.
Yeah, that was always going to happen. When we saw this into the final corner, Super Noodle Bagel in there, a lap down, trying to just thread the needle, pick their way through. Reska Kyoso wasn't actually caught up in that. I thought I saw the yellow there, into the wall and then into the back. A little bit unfortunate there for Hyperstar, a little bit clumsy there for Josh Merrin, both of them with big damage. It was Super Noodle Bagel that was caught up in it as well. Gives the lead of the race to Punju. Reska Kyoso second. Ryan Lady through. Be happy he didn't get the best of restarts, because now he finds himself residing in third position ahead of Aerotech Dector and Hayden Gullis. We'll see what cheese goes on under this unsafety car. But yeah, that was a comedy of errors. I think it was always going to happen when you've got so many cars clustered in such a short period of time, in such a short part of the circuit really, into heavy braking zone. I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier, to be honest.
Well, I want to see here whether Brendan Hyperstar collects the only gap in the barrier on the inside. There's a gap just under the checkered flag there, and you can see there's just nowhere to go. As soon as the first cars make contact, it's just a wall in front of you and nothing you can do. That is Josh Merrin just making their way. I think they've got 2 functioning tyres at least on the car. That rear wing might need a little bit of super glue, I'm not going to lie. And they got a big sniffer on the front of the car, and unfortunately it's also disappeared. So that car is definitely second hand. For sale, treated carefully, lightly used.
Yeah, that's almost an undressed Indy car. Losing the rear wing, losing the front wing, wheels hanging off, suspension bits flying all over the place. Not good news at all. Pit stops, though, once again, under the second unsafety car of the evening. It's now Aerotech that finds itself in the lead for the time being of the Indy class, with Hayden Gullis up to second. Punju down to third, ahead of Love 46, L83 and Kyoso. Still getting repairs. Hyperstar, Bagel, Lithium Fox and Josh Merrin, who's just exited pit road. Chesnoid Gaming, though, in the GT3s, piloting that McLaren car, now finds himself atop the timing charts. Head of Stroop Waffle, then Storm Moline, who's just come into the pits, so that will promote Josh's corner and promote Josh's as well. And there, in 5th position in class, in the Corvette, is the 12 of Aidan Poll, who has been quicker than the majority of his rivals. Sueli Almeida actually had a really good restart, was very much keeping tabs on last week's winner and the winner up until, or the leader I should say, up until the point of the first and second unsafety cars. But got to now work his way through the pack, and if you were watching earlier on, well, Aidan Poll is pretty much the master of working his way through the GT3 classes.
Yeah, he's definitely really good in terms of getting those overtakes done. I think it's just a case of being able to brake a meter later than everyone else. It just opens up opportunities to maybe send one down the inside and not lose all of a corner's worth of pace, which can be 1 or 2 seconds depending on how much you have to brake. A lot of cars into the pits, that's to be expected. Everybody that didn't pit under the last unsafety car, and for once Hayden Gullis is actually doing a pit stop rather than driving through through the pits, they'll take the opportunity to get some new tyres on and maybe just repair any little bit of damage they might have collected. At this point, it's all down to just confidence in the car. If you think that you can gain a little bit more confidence by pitting for a fresh set of tyres, you're going to do that because there's a lot of this race still to go.
100%. Kyoso into the pits again. That promotes Merin up to 5th, Dector to 4th, L83, Ryan L83 to 3rd. Punju reclaims the lead of the race for now. We'll see what the order is when everybody filters out of pit road. And you can see them there just trying to find out the positions they're in. Dector potentially there ahead of Aerotech, who's just emerged in the 3 car. There's Merin behind. I think Aerotech might just be ahead. No, they are going to trade places once again with Kyoso, Gullis and Hyperstar following behind them.
Was that Merin off the road? No, it's Aerotech off the road. I'm not exactly sure what happens there, but he's left 2 places now. There's a Super Noodle Bagel who's still a lap down as far as I can see, just getting that lap back. So we might be able to see, let's see this from another instance. And yeah, it does clip the wall, does Brendan Hyperstar, and you can see everybody collecting the GR86, who then goes backwards down the road, although he's got a wheel that's missing. I must say, that's commendable driving, just trying to keep the wheel straight so he doesn't get collected or collect anybody more in that incident. So yeah, lovely driving, but then again, you've been collected. There's not much more you can do in that situation.
Yeah, unfortunate definitely for Brendan Hyperstar. You could just see the barrier there. That little bit of white that sticks out is what caught him out. He went for the smallest gap. It was millimetrically perfect to fit in IndyCars. Through they go. Hyperstar to the right and straight into the back we go with Merit, and that is where the big concertina and the big bundle into the barriers with the 3 IndyCars and the GR86s went. And unfortunately, like we said, for Hyperstar to just find himself trying to barge his way through a door that was closing all the time, and then when it did close, he still had his foot in the door.
Well, the more I look at that, I'm thinking Josh Merin just kept his foot in, even though there was 2 cars and no gap as well. I mean, obviously, you hope until the last seconds that a gap will appear, that they will spot you in the mirrors and move across. They don't have to. And the problem is, when you anticipate that something's going to happen, and it doesn't, and all of a sudden you don't have enough time to apply the brakes, that is exactly what happens. So I think perhaps a miscalculation trying to get or keep in the slipstream of Brendan Hyperstar, and they've both taken themselves out of the race, basically. And then anybody else that was involved in it was unfortunate to get collected as well. But yeah, the GR86 is doing their job as a, well, efficient barrier against IndyCars, apparently.
If in doubt, keep it absolutely flat out. That is the way that Josh Merin went about it. I think he was just so committed to what he was doing, found himself with absolutely nowhere to go, and then just ploughed into the back of the GR86 there, picked up a lot of damage. Maybe knowing that an unsafety car was called, maybe he saw that Hyperstar had his front left car, I think it was, almost ripped from the car, and just deciding, well, there's absolutely nothing I can do. I'm just going to shoot a few fireworks up in the air as I cause this massive little bit of carnage. Hayden into the pits, Bagel into the pits, Strootwaffle into the pits for the GT3 cars as well. Still leaves Punju out there in the lead for the Indy cars, but here we go again. Is this going to be Hayden Ghost trying to pull his old faithful, old reliable trick to pick up some free spots? Aerotech, though, has found himself in front of the 86 car, so we'll see where they filter out for the second time in as many laps. So
I think Aerotech's
still at the back.
Yeah, Brendan Hyperstar still has really got caught out in these positions. Sorry to interrupt you there, Tom, but I think Aerotech put on the brakes to make sure that Hayden couldn't repeat what he did.
So we've got probably 16 laps to go if we get going on this lap. We'll see what happens to the unsafety car, whether it's thrown into the abyss and into the tyre barriers and try and reach the pit lane from the top of the corkscrew on this lap. Scotty Designs with his second attempt at doing so. Super Noodle Bagel still in the pit lane, as we do see the unsafety car start to create a little bit of a gap to the Indy cars. I think that is just signalling to us that this will be go time, and we will be running with 16 of 52 laps remaining. Punju leading for the IndyCars. Joshimas started from pole position, found himself in last not too long afterwards in the GT3s. Now back up into first position with Aidan Polt and Sueli Almeida head and shoulders above everybody else in the GT3 class for company. Here we go though with a magic trick. Ready? This unsafety car is just going to completely disappear in front of your eyes. Ready? Bang! Into the wall we go, flipping a number of times. That's a 10 if I've ever seen it on the diving scale. And then out of thin air, we just disappear like that. With the click of a finger, we're gone and we're back in the pits. And we're back on board with Punju.
The unsafety car definitely hit 88 miles per hour, and that's what happens. And so there you go, out of the equation. But I have to say, 10 out of 10 performance on the pirouetting. I've never seen a hypercar do that. You know, if that was an Olympics, that would be a gold medal right there. Nobody else would compete after that. As Punju gets ready for the restart, Love 46 really wants to get a move on as well, as Ryan is also back in the mix to get a good position. So we're going to have that concertina in IndyCar, because a lot of the faster drivers are at the back of the pack right now. Let's see how
contact
Punju
at the back. There's a
handles
car
this.
off. Missing a little bit of front wing as well. Maybe it's Aerotech caught up in that, or potentially, yes, Aerotech off the road. I don't think there's damage, but that was a little bit clumsy as Punju, I think, has put his foot to the floor. And we do go racing for the third time. Punju leading Love 46, Ryan 83 all over the back of the 46 car. Then we have Dector Josh Merrin trying to make up for lost time, diving down the inside of turn 2, keeps it tight to the apex and does dispossess the 14 car of 4th place Kyoso, looking to try and follow through. Was the leader in class for the majority of this race. Is it going to be the outside? I don't think Kyoso's going to get the time of day there. Going to try and have to make a dicey move to the inside now, ducking, weaving all over the back of Dector in the battle for 5th and 6th in class. And I think Kyoso still being held at bay for the time being. Gullis getting involved, Hyperstar getting involved as well. Punchy stuff from the 10 car, tries to dangle the nose down the inside of 6, keeping his foot in there with Kyoso up towards turn 7. This is brave, and Hyperstar thinking about lap 52. Off the road goes Kyoso, off the road as well. I think that's Josh Merrin losing places. No, it's Punju who's taking a trip into the gravel. Love 46 now leading, and into the back of Dector goes Kyoso into the corkscrew. Dector all over the place and now pointing in the wrong direction.
Oh, what a shame. Just unsettled. I think maybe a bit of damage on the rear as well. And then when they hit the compression at the bottom, the car just span out completely. But that is a disaster for Reska Kyoso as well. Clear damage on that front wing, as indeed Love 46 trying to create a gap at the moment. The pack has split effectively into two, with Reska Kyoso leaving a little bit of time on the table with that contact, and Brendan Hyperstar leaving a bit of a gap as well. I think just trying to remain out of trouble at the moment. But Ryan L83 closing in on Love 46 as well. Meanwhile, in GT3 category, we have Aidan Pole, who has got past Joshua Suede Almeida, has got past as well. And it looks like Sparks is challenging Joshua's also. So the class getting a move on right now. Joshua's struggling to find pace. The consistency is there now, but just needs to find that extra bit of rhythm. As look at how confident Sparks is on acceleration compared to Joshua's, and indeed on the brakes up the inside, steaming it, saying, oh, bit of contact, I think, and Joshua's is still there, retakes the position, but I think Sparks clearly lost the back of the car right there.
A little bit too touchy-feely there. Sparks trying to get back up into 3rd place, which is where he ended last week at Road America. Aidan Pole back up into the leading class. Head of Suelio Almeida. You'd expect those two to check out, ducking and weaving. Underneath the rearing of Ryan 83 is Josh Merrin, still only half a second in front of them. Is Love 46. Opportunity here for Merrin. We said he could be a dark horse, made a bit of a mess of trying to get through, as Ryan 83 has to throw the defensive shake through the flat-out kink of turn 1. Is it attack the best form of defence for Ryan? No. Thought about it maybe to the inside to nab the lead of the race from Love 46, to keep Merrin in his back pocket. Fastest lap of the race. Purple lap punched in for Merrin as well, looking so confident, wrestling that IndyCar through the first couple of corners. Off the road again goes Punju for the second time in as many laps, and Lithium Fox says thank you very much, lapping that one up on a silver platter. But the favour might be returned as Punju dangles the nose down the inside. They're going to get bulked in, and it's Lithium Fox that comes off second best, caught behind the GR86.
It was an intelligent pass there from Punju. He saw the car in front, and that Lithium Fox was going to get boxed in, and that is Hayden Gullis trying to get the overtake done as well. It's worth noting as well that Love 46, although they're in the lead, they're also using their push to pass to maintain the lead via extra horsepower on the straights. Oh, yoy, up the inside. Thankfully, the GR86s are trying to get out of the way. My days. Oh, boxed on the outside is Josh Merrin.
Right to the inside, into the final corner. Sorry to jump in there. Can he try and take the lead away from Love 46? You bet your bottom dollar he can take the lead from Love 46 and pull half a second in the space of just one traction zone as they try and duck and weave between the GR86 cars. Ryan 83 was so punchy, so ballsy down the inside, just found the space to slide that car through and picks up the lead of the race.
You look away for 0.2 of a second, and there goes Ryan from an overtake for the leads. That was impressive. That was spotting an opportunity and having the confidence to go for it. And that is what makes the difference at the end of the day. But yeah, Love 46 in a bit of a difficult situation because they've only got, as far as I can see, 40 seconds of their push to pass remaining. So they're going to have to be quite conservative, and it won't allow them to defend. As once again, Sparks up the inside of Joshima's right now. It looks like this might be a clean overtake. You have that is Dector going past. My apologies. And yeah, he is just a bit off the back now, so I think Dector has definitely made contact somewhere or had a spin, so unfortunate. Oh yeah, they did get collected by Reska Kyoso, didn't they? So I'm remembering that now, so they had to pit for damage. Good to see them back out on track though.
Yeah, got a big whack up the backside going into the corkscrew, and that was where the rear wing fell off. We saw the 14 car dragging it around, getting back to the pits, albeit down in 10th place. Not last in class, with Super Noodle Bagel still suffering some technical difficulties, unfortunately. And once again, those two bookending it. Here comes Hyperstar, trying to dance down the inside into turn 2. Kyoso jinking over the road, trying to make it plain and obvious. Hyperstar, mate, you are not coming through here. I'm going to defend this with all I have in the battle for 4th and 5th in class. 2 seconds to the leading trio as Ryan tries to stretch his legs out in front and just eat that gap over Love 46, with Josh Merrin cruising up to the back once again of the 46 car. Then it's this tussle for 4th and 5th. Kyoso wide though, off goes. I think that's the Mercedes of Ancephalosis potentially through 5.
That was Grand Pooh
That's
Bear.
going to open the opportunity for Hyperstar to send it down the inside and pick up 4th place as Kyoso goes off the road again. And it was, my apologies, Grand Pooh Bear who did take that trip off the road. Battle for the lead rages on. It's actually Love 46 applying the blowtorch to Ryan 83 through the corkscrew, but once again they're going to catch traffic at a particularly perilous part of the circuit.
Oh, it's so difficult, so annoying when you catch the car at the wrong place, and it can be the contact made between the front two. Ryan's wing is off. Josh has collected a little bit of damage. Oh, yeah, that's not ideal, is it?
Missing the braking zone. Josh Merrin says thank you very much. No rear wing, I think, there for Ryan at 83. That is going to be a tricky car to handle. Diving past the Aston and the Mustang, just getting it slightly wrong. Vaulting over the rear of the 83 car. And into the gravel we go with Love 46. Bit of a clumsy area. We'll see if Ryan is managing to hold on with what I assume is a little bit of damage. Yeah, he's got his rear wing. He's dragging it, trailing it along behind. Surely he's going to get the rear downforce. Yes, there he goes. Hyperstar almost follows him in deep. Merrin takes the lead away from Ryan. Hyperstar through, and that could be the chances of a win for Ryan. 83 slipping away.
Yeah, I was gritting my teeth into that corner because I could see the car twitching even before he turned in for the corner, and then it snapped immediately. It was so lucky, I'd say, that one of the cars didn't end up on the roof effectively, because that was just all over the rear wheel, quite literally, of Ryan L83. Now he has the pain of being overtaken by everybody without being able to do anything about it. So very unfortunate right there, but it does give an opportunity for people like Lithium Fox to get the overtake done. Love 46 with some damage, so they'll be really limping. They'll try and carry on for the moment, but they'll be losing heaps of time. You can see half of the downforce missing on that front wing, and that will be a terrible understeery car to drive right now. And they don't even have the boost to defend at the moment. They've gone through almost all of it. And so now it's the question of how fast can they overtake, because at the moment Brendan Hyperstar and Josh Merrin are pulling away in the lead.
Hyperstar is now the driver that is in the lead. Just missed it. I think it was down into turn number 2. The 10 car getting ahead of Josh Merrin. Hyperstar was lucky he didn't follow Ryan 83 off the road. There's Merrin just boxed in behind a couple of GR86 cars, just trying to pick the right path. As there's the Merc as well. And lovely draft there for Hyperstar, going through the flat out kink of 1. It's going to be the long way round into 2. Can he get it done before we even get to the braking zone? Almost a full car length ahead. Still going to have to go the long way round, but charges around the outside. It's going to be Josh Merrin who finds himself a little bit bolt, just the space there to the right hand side for Brendan Hyperstar, playing with fire, because remember what happened about 10 or so laps ago when he tried to put his car in a small gap between a wall and a GR86 car. Didn't go particularly well, but on this occasion doing a good job as it dives down inside into the penultimate. Contact further back. I'm not sure who it is. I think it's Punju at Love 46 getting entangled and off the road through the penultimate corner, and that is a big mistake. It's Aerotech actually, I think, that's off there in the pickets. And that is a disappointing one, because both of those cars look significantly damaged. We'll have a look again. Coming through the corkscrew, both of them caught out. This is Punju trailing, and just taps the back. Around we go, and there is no saving that. It's Love 46 actually, and that's their second bit of contact in as many laps. And both of them with big problems.
Yeah, Love 46, the tyre, I think, completely gone. So I think they've had to tow back to the pits. So that is so unfortunate. It happens at the end of the day, but I think Punju wasn't expecting Love 46 to not have the turn in. Once again, that missing front wing I don't want to say caused that incident, because Punju had to avoid effectively, and they didn't. But I don't think Punju was aware that Love 46 had damage, and so there was a big lift off, and that's exactly where Punju kept it flat, or nearly flat, and then collected the back of Love 46. So very unfortunate. It just shows that one incident can lead to another, or a little bit of bad luck can lead to even more extreme stuff down the road, as Reska Kyoso now trying to chase down the front two, a gap of 4 seconds. So that is quite a bit of time to find, but there's definitely more than enough laps. As you can see there, Aidan Pole out in the middle of nowhere, 6 seconds to Suelio Almeida, and Sparks in P3 getting challenged still by Joshua as he hasn't been able to pull away.
I haven't spoken about Aidan Pole, but that is because he is doing such a fine job. He's got absolutely nobody to worry about. 7 seconds, now 6.5 as he lets the Indy cars go between himself and Suelo Almeida, who are the class above in the GT3 category. Suelo didn't get the best of restarts, was just caught out by a couple of cars, and that was the only invitation Aidan Pole needed to check out into the distance, stretch his legs, and pull that gap of nearly 7 seconds. Doing what he likes, Aidan Pole, and very much liking what he's doing as well, as Josh Marion continues to try and chase down Hyperstar in the battle for first and second in the Indy class. Reska Kyoso leaking time all of the time, now nearly 5 seconds between her, or him I should say, and the leading duo, with Lithium Fox in fourth, a further 7.5 back. Then you've got Hayden Gullett, who we haven't spoken about for a little bit of time. No cheesing going on for the 86, and holding P5 very nicely as things stand.
So there's your leader of GT3, Aidan Pole, as we mentioned, now 7 seconds in the lead. He's just nearly getting in front of Lithium Fox there, avoiding action. That could have ended badly. That could have been the 7 seconds wiped out there and then. But it keeps the lead for a moment. I think Lithium Fox ran wides there, also not having a good time this lap. But as we mentioned, the top 4 are just in another league at the moment. Ancephalosis in P5 at the moment. Chesnoid Gaming another couple of seconds behind. But
big crash into the corkscrew. Ches is off. I think he slammed into Ancephalosis, potentially off into the barriers. I wonder if that's going to be an unsafe car. You can see it. No, it's a GR86 car that Ches has absolutely whacked into the back of, taken the front bumper of that McLaren away. Probably a bit of suspension damage in there as well. And that is not good news. Was running pretty well, was Ches in P6, like you said. Is going to continue on, so clearly not too badly injured by that one, as we see a GR86 going very, very wide through the penultimate corner. We'll get a watch of it again. It's Ches trying to work his way through. There's Punju in front, ducking and weaving through the GR86. Ches comes in too late and slams into the GR86, innocent bystander. Ches just a little bit too brave there into the break, so tried to make up places that weren't there for him.
I can guarantee you Chesnoid was saying sorry before he even made contact then, because that was just maybe 10 metres too late on the brakes. Just trying to follow the IndyCar through. That was nearly contact between Love 46 and Chesnoid. I think there's quite a bit of downforce lost on the front of that McLaren. The front splitter is very important for these GT3 cars, so even a little bit of damage will make it very, very understeery, that's for sure. But maybe staying out hoping for an unsafety car hasn't happened so far, but yeah, definitely tricky, and it can be very misleading, let's say, to see a faster car approach the turn and then you try and copy them, and obviously it doesn't work. Grand Poubert, who was briefly off a couple of laps ago, still challenging Stroopwafel here for position, and that was Dekter just getting involved there, trying to get the overtakes done. Dekter's had a little bit of a disastrous second half of this race, just been caught out with incidents, not of his own doing, and then he's just been out of position effectively, so just trying to get the laps in, trying to keep himself in the running in case any late drama happens.
100%. Grand Poubert slips backwards and catching up to the GR86 now. Goes Stroopwafel in that brilliant Mustang, I have to say. Look at that incredible livery. Absolutely BEA beautiful as Ches continues on. Battle at the front of the GR86s. Haven't spoken too much about it, but it is still last week's winner, Nate Stewart, leading the charge, with Clark very much in hot pursuit, comfortably clear of everybody else with just over 5 laps to go. There you can see 4.5 seconds the gap between Clark in second and Mir Rose in third, who in turn has 7 seconds over Tic Tac in fourth. Like you mentioned earlier, not quite as close quarters racing, I think is the best way to put it, in the GR86, but we might have a little dice and a duel down into turn number 2. This is Christoph we're watching on board with, behind Flyers in the battle for 7th and 8th. Is it the outside? Is it the inside? Has to be the inside. Who's braver under brakes? It looks like it's the 310 of Flyers around the outside, trying to keep it pinned to hold on to the position. Little bit tentative there from Christoph, loses him, calls the assault at 7th place, has to sit in behind for now, and needs to be careful of that IndyCar that is approaching at a rapid rate of knots.
Yeah, good racing from Christoph, though, because they tapped the brakes on the apex just to make sure the car didn't run too wide, and that meant that they could keep racing and go side by side. So very thoughtful, very clean racing. You've got to respect it, even though they did end up conceding the position. And so, you know, at the end of the day, clean racing is what you look for, especially when you're in the lower classes. You get taken out often enough by an IndyCar. You don't need to do it to people in the same class. But yeah, Chesnoid's still carrying on there, but Brendan Hyperstar creating a little bit of a gap now, 1.9 seconds. I tell you what, Reska Kyoso has closed the gap by about a second to Josh, so Josh falling backwards a little bit, but will there be enough laps right now? Hayden Gullis trying to catch Lithium Fox at the moment, and apart from that, the gaps are quite big in the IndyCar classes, just from various incidents and indeed overtakes that have gone wrong. But for Brendan Hyperstar, it's now very... Oh, I think Storm Molina there closed the gap on Brendan. That would have been very close there, but it looks like they've got away with it. But yeah, a heart-in-mouth moment, and for Brendan Hyperstar, it will be the longest 3.5 laps that he's got left of his life, I think.
Is to try and work this through. I think Josh Marin's just lost a little bit of pace, like you said, and almost falling into the clutches of last week's Indy winner, Reska Kyoso, who is taking chunks of time out. Lock up into the corkscrew we go. I think that is a Dector battling away with air attack. No, that's Josh Marin lapping Dector for the first time. As through goes the 53 car, almost equidistant, but Reska Kyoso, you can see there, Josh Marin losing so much time through the corkscrew. Another second down goes the gap between the 53 and the 113. Make sure you don't battle too hard, because Lithium Fox is only 4 seconds back, is off the road. I think that is Dector into the final corner, taking a trip through the gravel. We've got a GR86 off the road into the pickets as well. Maybe a bit of a tripping over each other into the braking zone.
I think that was Dector trying to get out of the way of Reska Kyoso, to be fair. That's what I understood into the last turn. But yeah, something's gone wrong there. I didn't see any contact. I think it was just two cars going off at the same place at the same time. But there's no damage on the cars, that's for sure. They can carry on running. But again, it's at the end of the race where you go for those sort of questionable moves, because you know you don't have any time left and you're trying to catch up. And paradoxically, that's meant that Reska Kyoso, after gaining a second, has now lost the seconds to Josh Marin. And Brendan Hyperstar has got caught up in something here, because he's lost a second to Josh Marin as well. Oh, up the inside, that was so close to disaster once again for Josh Marin. He's laying all of the cards on the table and a little bit more in his attempts to catch Brendan Hyperstar. Joshima's having to jump out of the way onto the gravel as well. This is maybe setting up for a grandstand finish here, as all of the drivers are leaving nothing on the table, pushing for 110% performance.
Just a couple of laps to go, and whilst it's not the job of the slower car to just get out of the way and roll out the red carpet, it is critical to be predictable, needs to be predictable, and that was what Marin was struggling with, jinking a little bit around was that lime green GR86 car. That's why he was a little bit indecisive and just a little bit tentative in trying to make his way through. Gap under a second now between Marin and Kyoso, who is hustling that IndyCar. The 113 pushing flat out. I think going to run out of laps though, with only a second and only a lap and a half in the back pocket to try and deal with. A little bit of dust thrown up, so I think somebody's gone slightly wide through turn 4. As Marin gets in front of a GR86, and Reska Kyoso has to go the long way around, was brave on the brakes. Sparks, I believe it is, now the car in front in that Audi. Last season's champion in a very lonely third place. 13 seconds off the back of Almeida, 16 seconds clear of Ancephalosys. There was a car stopped there at the side that just disappeared. Didn't quite catch who it was, as some more dust is thrown up going through the corkscrew for the penultimate time.
Yeah, sadly, even I didn't catch that one. It was too brief of a glimpse, but there's quite a few cars that I think have gone off. That was, again, the Lamborghini of Istez TV that was having a few incidents and issues there. But you can see the closing speed here. Reska Kyoso has a lot more grip. We'll get updated lap times as well. So Brendan Hyperstar, 1:12. And it's a 1:13 from Josh Marin as it's academic.
There's a GR86 in the way, has to slam the anchors on. I think Marin's still there down the inside.
Oh no!
Now he spins it round through turn 2. Unbelievable scenes. Josh Marin thought the second place. He had it in the palm of his hand after Reska Kyoso came across a GR86 at the worst possible time. But Marin there making a rod for his own back, looping it round through 2 and handing second place back over to Reska Kyoso at the start of the last lap. This is Lithium Fox in P4, who's now just a second off the back of Marin. But to the front of this IndyCar train, it is Brendan Hyperstar who has managed to be the calm amongst the bevy of storms. that we have seen so far this evening. And up to this point this evening, still a little bit of work to do as he goes through the corkscrew for the final time. We've got a Porsche and we've got a couple of GR86 that he has to try and slip through for the last time. Just be tentative here. Got some time in his back pocket despite the pace that Reska Kyoso has got. But as Hyperstar approaches the final corner, didn't quite get it right a week ago in Road America. Rights the wrongs though, and he rounds the final corner to take a brilliant Indy class win. Brendan Hyperstar blasts over the line, and it's the number 10 that's victorious. The battle for third rages on though, because once again Josh Merrin under the car. She's a drag race out of the last corner. I think Merrin's out of fuel, and that hands it to Lithium Fox on a plate. Kyoso in second ahead of Fox and Merrin. Gullis a further 4 seconds back. And in the GT3 class, Aidan Pole, I think, is going to take that very comfortably as well. There is the vet coming up to turn 5. And Aidan Pole, as he was last week, absolutely bulletproof, faultless in that Corvette, with Sueli Almeida and Sparks once again repeating their second and third places from Road America a week ago.
Yeah, the GT3 class has been a question of confidence, and as you said, one driver has had supreme confidence above all of the rest, and that is Aidan Pole. He hasn't really put a foot wrong all race. He's kept himself out of any form of contact. I haven't even seen an incident point whatsoever, so it's been a supreme demonstration of how to win a race, just clearing off into the front of the pack. I must say the start of the race is where he won it, really just overtaking basically every driver in 2 laps, and he's not been challenged since, as across the line he will duck and weave, and he definitely deserves a celebration on this one. Across the line, Aidan Pole winner once again in the GT3 category, as Suelio Almeida looks to cross the line P2 as well. So it's been a demonstration of performance from them for sure, and I think we're about to see some donuts.
Yeah, Pole was so far ahead that Almeida was picked up by Hyperstar, and Pole had to complete the final lap. That's how much of a gap he pulled over Almeida, and then a further 16 seconds back to Sparks in third. Reigning champion once again finishing in position 3. But what a race that was. We expected carnage. We got carnage. Aidan Pole doing some donuts as somebody blast past at full pelt into the barrier. Of course, who else would it be other than Hayden Gillis? As we've got, I think that's the Aston Martin of Storm Molina, upside down on top of Ryan 83, as we all get entangled and acquainted with Barrier and the tyre walls at turn 2.
Yeah, I think a lot of cars have had overheating tyres in the last couple of laps. That was an intense last stint, and they're taking it out on each other now, just with a little bit of argy-bargy, because, you know, at the end of the day, it's been a tense race, and they need to take it out some way, and I don't blame them whatsoever. But here we go for the results. Brendan Hyperstar taking that victory. Supreme performance to come back from what was a difficult safety car period. Reska Kyoso P2 after that disappointing last lap for Josh Merrin, just spinning as well. A clean overtake though from Reska Kyoso, very ambitious, but it worked out. Lithium Fox P3, a couple of 5 seconds back with Hayden Gillis P5 in the end. Aerotech, after a brief stint in the lead, P6. Ryan L83 having, well, just no luck whatsoever this race. Had the pace though, was the fastest car on track for most of the race. Punju P8, again a driver that led, and the last person on the lead lap, with Dector and Love 46 laps down, sadly.
Yeah, Super Noodle Bagel also had a bit of a stinker out there. Aidan Pole was comfortably clear out in front, and once again takes the win ahead of Suelio Almeida and Sparks. Bit of GT3 deja vu from a week ago with Ancephalosis, a very solid P4 ahead of Storm Molina and Chesnoid Gaming, minus the front bumper of that McLaren. Joshma started from pole, tumbled down, worked his way back up to 7th, ahead of Grand Poubet. Stroop Waffle and Josh's corner were very much embroiled in a couple of battles out there, with Des ending up 5 laps down for family-friendly fun, friends forever himself and Punju. And then, once again, the winner in the GR86s, it is Nate Stewart, and Clark finishing 8/10 for second back once again, but this time it gets him second, 10 or 18 seconds clear of Tic Tac, who did dispossess, gosh damn, of third right at the death. Vipin P5 headed Diam Gal. Christoph, Mia Rose was up inside the top 3 for a lot of that race as well, with Elbert and Flyers completing the top 10. And in 11th place, the last of the finishers, I can't quite remember who it was. It was Young Quest. I've just remembered it. I've got it written down. Young Quest coming home in 11th place. 4 laps down, I believe it was. 5 laps down. But what a race. That was very, very exciting, wasn't it, John? A lot of fun, a lot of battles, and a lot of controversial and big, big firework moments as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the amount of overtakes that I saw that could have gone wrong, that didn't go wrong, you got to say for the drivers today, although there were some incidents, they did a supreme job of keeping it reasonably clean. I'm sure, at least into the Andretti hairpin, nobody expected the closing pace to be that quick. That was impressive, especially at the end with Reska Kyoso. I thought I'd have enough time to read the lap times just going into the last lap, but oh no. Oh boy, did Reska Kyoso just chuck one round the outside. And just to see the closing speed with that GR86 locking the brakes up, it could have been disastrous. But I think the people that have got the good results today have been the ones that have kept it clean and have been, clear thinking and quick thinking in terms of avoiding action.
100%. Well, speaking of somebody who kept it clean, for the majority of the race, Brendan Hyperstar, the winner of the IndyCar class. And Brendan, that looked like a very topsy-turvy race, not just for yourself, but for everybody involved.
I was talking to Chestnut last week. I basically told him, like, if you just keep your car on the track don't get a drive-through, for instance, you'll probably finish pretty well, because I figured something was going to happen to everyone at some point. I think I had slightly more happen to me than others. I was leading kind of comfortably the first stint, and then my wheel just disconnected. I'm pretty sure I know what the cause might be, but I don't know. But either way, we're stuck in the back for a little bit. Then it came back our way. We also caused a massive crash on the front stretch, which I'm not proud of, but it was pretty crazy.
Could you give us a run through of that crash? Because from the cameras, it just looked like a misjudgment. Was there any other elements to take into account for that one?
I could have gone middle, but I think there still could have been a crash, because that Toyota on the driver's right was going to have to turn eventually, and he probably would have just clipped me and not through any fault of his own. I thought that the best hole was on the left, and then it closed up, and then took a couple of cars with me. I feel like even if I lifted, someone else was going to go and try and go through, and would have resulted the same. So I don't know if it was avoidable, but I hope the crash looked cool on the broadcast anyway. I'll have to go back and watch it.
Definitely did. I mean, it was like 10 pin bowling down there into one. We spoke about it, and that's kind of what caused that crash in the first place. The GR86s and the GT3s, how difficult was it? The closing speeds, the blind crest as well that you had to deal with, the corkscrew in particular. It looked like a real battle out there just to survive for the majority of it.
Yeah, it was tough. Someone mentioned in the race too that, it was dusk in sims. The race started like 6:30 p.m. sim time, and it got darker and darker. And of course, Indy cars don't have lights, and we're incredibly small cars to begin with. So, I had to be a little bit more careful towards the end, because GT cars were just taking their line, and if they had sideswiped me, right, I kind of put myself in that position. So today was all about making the fewest mistakes, because I definitely made a lot of mistakes, but we came out on top in the end.
How difficult was it maybe to figure out the strategy mid-race when all of the unsafety cars were happening? Did that have a big incidence on your race, or do you think you got a bit lucky with that one?
We definitely benefited from our own crash, which brought out the safety car, because at the very least, it kind of happened right at a point where everyone could pit for fuel. But unfortunately, a lot of the field still had auto fuel enabled, which underfueled them. So a couple cars had to save. So I didn't have to save. I always go to these races, I figure out like the clean air fuel number and put it in my dash, and it always tells me add this at whatever point you are in the race. So if I ever have to fuel save, I can at least work backwards from there to see like what my number is. So I drive the IndyCar a lot, so it's easy for me to say, it's easy to strategize, but driving this car is pretty straightforward for me.
And just looking ahead to the next race in a couple of weeks' time, Indy Road Course. Is it Indy Road Course?
I think it is.
If it is, I want to forget it, because it's not a good track of mine.
Well, I was going to say, how are you feeling going into it? I mean, technical challenge, I think, is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, it's not my best track, but like I enjoy it for what it is. The last time I ran there was a league race like 6 months ago, and I actually did pretty decent compared to like how I usually do there. So I feel like the particular updates with the car, like the past going back a year's been helpful. Like the new tire model was put in just after Indy last year, I believe. So I've always kind of struggled a bit in the road courses in the previous tire model, but on this newest one, I feel it just kind of fits me. So maybe I'll enjoy Indy Road. It's definitely gotten better for me for sure.
Perhaps allow me to put it in this context then. You're picking up quite a decent amount of points on the road courses. So when we go to the ovals, you're looking in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, well, Talladega is kind of like the lottery, so we're not in complete control of our destiny for that one, but there are GT3s and Toyotas, so the winning move in that might be if like the Toyotas are 4 wide in the backstretch. I mean, there's a whole paved backstretch of Dega. You can just go, I mean, we do 260 there in IndyCar. You just go to the bottom and then clear yourself up, so maybe it won't be that much of a problem, but yeah, looking forward to the ovals for sure. That's my strong suit, but I'm glad at least in the road course I'm showing at least some level of competency.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for talking to us, Brendan. Congratulations as well on your victory. Very, very well executed, even if there were a few dramas littered in there. Go and enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time for Indy Road.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very, very much. Well, from one class winner, we're going to move to another, bringing in Aidan Pohl. I mean, what is there to say that hasn't already been said? From our perspective, Aidan, that looked absolutely seamless for yourself.
That felt really good. Oh, I'm muted, aren't I?
You're not muted. We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm not muted. Okay. Yeah, that was a super fun race. It very quickly, I realized I picked up damage, I think on lap 1 or lap 2 that lasted half the race. It was about as chaotic as I expected it to be. A lot of self-preservation going on.
So how did you manage the race in terms of the overtaking? Because we saw a lot of carnage with some GT3 cars sort of getting caught between the Indy cars and the GR86s. Is there a specific tactic that you employed?
The only tactic I can think of, it did happen once where I literally got caught between them, is to be in the middle. Because if you're in the middle, somebody else is going to get spun and you'll kind of get stuck there, which did happen actually a couple of times where somebody was passing on each side and you just hold your wheel straight and pray. I killed a couple of people against my own will that way. Yeah, I think it was really just about being super hesitant. Passing GT3s was honestly the most difficult thing because they can battle really well. And there were a couple of guys that I had to, took 2 or 3 laps just to make a move on, which came back to just making the easiest move. Going around the outside was like a no-go for me this race.
You mentioned last week that the Corvette that you're in might not suit Laguna Seca as much as it suited Road America. Didn't look like it held you back too much from the outside, though.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't driven Laguna Seca in a while. It's a lot of 90-degree corners, and that's what the Corvette is good at. Especially with the good weather we had, it was like almost gonna rain, so the track was really cool. And with that cool temperature, the outside tires through a lot of these sweepers in the Corvette, you just feel like you have unlimited grip. It almost feels like a Formula car. You load them up and it never stops. As soon as you get into hot temperatures, that's when you start seeing some 4-wheel slides with it. But the nature of a lot of these corners, I think, actually did end up suiting that car a lot better than I thought.
So I'll ask the obvious question then. Is there a course where you think you're going to have trouble at this point?
I would say Daytona. Strictly because the way that the Porsche specifically can handle the bus stop on Daytona is unlike any other car. So that one's on my radar. I know that's going to be coming up, and I'm not super excited about that. Daytona was officially on iRacing's race list just a couple weeks ago, and it was only Porsches. That was the only car you saw there. It was the only one anyone drove. There's probably going to be a couple more tracks like that. I'm honestly not too familiar with GT3, so I don't keep up with what's the strongest where. But it feels like a car that will be okay everywhere, honestly, and shine at certain places. I don't think it's going to be somewhere that has big trouble anywhere. The more I drive it, the more I realize that this is a really good car.
Well, with the pace that you're currently showing, you might get to Daytona and you're already 5 wins from 5 in the first half of the season. So it's a pretty decent place to find yourself in. But thank you, Aidan, so much for talking to us. Congratulations on what was another very impressive victory from yourself. And we will see you in a couple of weeks' time for Indy Road.
Thank you, sir. I'll see you then.
Thank you very, very much. And I'm delighted to say we get a hat trick of class winners coming in to join us. It is Nate Stewart, the winner of the GR86 class. Once again, first time was so nice, Nate. Had to do it twice.
Yeah, for sure. This time was definitely a little bit more hectic with how small the track was compared to Road America. And also, I had no idea I was racing until like 2 minutes before the session went up. So I was very unprepared for it, but thankfully it was a really fun race overall. I enjoyed it. Definitely a lot of carnage with how narrow the track was and how fast the Indy cars and GT3s were compared to the 86. But Mia and Clark were really good tonight, and yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I got to win the first two.
We saw that the GR86 field was a bit more spread out this time. So how crucial was the race start in general? Because of course you started near the back. So how did that all fit in?
Yeah, the race start with the win last week, we gridded in reverse of community entry points. So I had to start last, which was fine. And the start was honestly pretty hectic. It was nearly a standing start for the 86s with where we started on the track. And then, so we just gassed it up out of the last corner, and just getting through the traffic is important as always. Just had to bide my time, not really hit anyone too hard on the way through. And then, thankfully the Indy cars and GT3s took care of some people for me. And yeah, once I got to the front, it was, I don't want to say it was smooth sailing because Clark was really hard to pass, but after that, it was pretty easy, only having like one or two cars to focus on.
What were the specific differences from a driving standpoint comparing Road America last week to what you had to tackle tonight, Laguna Seca?
So I feel like Laguna Seca is a lot more technical and it's slower and a lot more narrow and such. So Road America, to liken it to the ovals, which I'm used to, Road America is essentially the Daytona or Talladega of road courses, while Laguna Seca, I would give it more so like maybe a Texas type character. It's really interesting, and the driving was honestly pretty different, just with how much we were on the brakes and having to turn, and then dealing with the much faster traffic as well on such a narrow course, as I already mentioned, was just such a, I don't want to call it a headache because it was fun, but the driving standard or driving aspect of it was definitely a lot different from, and will be from track to track, and I'm looking forward to hopefully hopping into more.
Do you think then it'll be more or less of a problem on the maybe more open courses? Because we've had a bit of a mix so far in terms of circuits, but something like Indianapolis roads, do you think you'll have a bit of an easier time staying out of trouble? And well, I can see the 86 is going like 5 wide down the front straight there, actually.
Yeah, for sure. I think Indy is going to be a little bit of a mix, because Indy has some really long straightaways as well as tight corners, because we have the chicane in the first part of the track, and then also that first sector is kind of curvy, and then the S is in the middle, and then where we cut out oval turn 1 is going to be dive bomb central, really, from the Indy cars and GT3s. So I think it'll be a mix of the faster cars just blowing by us on the straightaways, and also having to get ready for dive bombs into the slower corners as well.
Wow. Thank you so much for talking to us once again, Nate, with your back-to-back victories in the GR86 cars. Hopefully we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time at Indy Road, where you can try and make it a 3 for 3.
Yeah, thank y'all for putting this on. Thanks to everyone that puts this on. Thank you guys for broadcasting. I want to say thank you to Aerotech and Storm Molina for having me come out. Shout out my sponsors really quick: Sembrap Barkage and Beaver Esports, Misadventure Life. Looking forward to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola qualifying iRacing series coming up soon. Make sure to tune into that. And yeah, hopefully I'll be talking to y'all next week, or at least in another race I get to do with them.
Fingers crossed. Well, thank you very much for chatting to us, and enjoy the rest of your week. Well, he's already gone, so he can't enjoy what I'm saying. It's always Gareth behind the scenes, taking people away before I can properly say goodbye to them. But that is us done for this evening. Wherever you've been watching this, whether it's on Creator Series channels or iRacing channels, thank you so much for spending your Thursdays, whether it's Thursday afternoon or Thursday night, with us. A pleasure to bring this series to you. Championship standings, if you're interested in those, will be available on the Creator Series social media channels tomorrow, above both of our heads, for you to check those out. John, just a couple of words to summarise what we've seen this evening.
Chaos, confusion, and crashes. There you go. I think the highlight has to be the unsafety car doing the pirouettes, right? That is a memory that I will have for a long time. But in essence, I mean, it keeps delivering this multi-class format, doesn't it? Every single turn there is something to talk about. Every single turn there is a new move to watch in terms of either incredulous performance or a little bit too far too soon. So we'll have to wait and see who can keep it consistent, but it's emerging that certain drivers are more on top of it than others.
100%. And they will have a little bit of time to wait because we have a break week next week. Round 3 of the Indianapolis Road Course will be coming on the 12th of February, where we will reconvene for some more multi-class madness and chaos, I am sure. Before we head out, John, where can people find you on the social media channels to see what you're up to?
Well, you can find me pirouetting a bit like the unsafety car around some trees on rally games at everything at is amusing on all of the social medias. And yeah, hopefully I don't crash too often. No, I take it back.
Crash quite a lot from what I've seen. But make sure you check out if you're interested in what I'm doing, wilco.coms or wilco.darts on TikTok and Instagram. But it's been a pleasure to have you with us for this evening or this afternoon's action. We'll be back, like I said, in a fortnight's time. Syllables are very tricky sometimes. Where we will be at the Indy Road Course. That could be a very interesting one, a very technical circuit. We're going to see if we still have the undulation challenges that we've seen here at Laguna Seca. Enjoy the rest of your week. Creator Series will be back, of course, on Saturday for the F1 side. But until then, thank you so much, and we will see you very, very soon. Goodbye.